Let's go. What is going on, beautiful people? Welcome back. It's your boy Blue, and right to me, to the right side, we got our friend XP72 as always. And this, my friends, is the Blu-XPerience Week 9. Can you believe it's been 9 episodes of this weekly Flight Sim live show? And today's a very special one. We got some I don't really know how to introduce them, to be honest with you, XP. I'm excited because we've been talking to them. You've heard their voices, most likely, in the US, in the UK, and we got VATSIM UK and VATSIM USA on board with us. But before that, XP, what you got to say?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard to another Blu-XPerience. Yeah, man, it's 9 episodes. I can't believe we've done 9 already. It's crazy,
yeah.
man. Crazy. But hey, we got to get into this one real quick. I'm not even going to wait. Look, on today's show, we have, by popular demand, VATSIM. And VATSIM is going to go over some things with us that we need to know as simmers and to make the process for us smooth and so forth and so on. You guys have tons of questions you asked. So without further ado, we got Umar from VATSIM New York, ZNY, which is New York.
Hey.
What's going on, Umar? We have Brody from VAT UK, who's going to give us the other side of the pond experience, because there are some differences there that even I am not too sure about and getting nervous about when I'm flying on the other side. So, Brody, what's going on, man? Umar, welcome
Yeah,
aboard.
good to be here, guys.
AKA
Awesome.
Information Yankee, I believe, on YouTube as well, or Twitch.
Yeah, I do controlling on Twitch, so I do stream that there.
Definitely check Information Yankee on Twitch.
Cheers,
live streaming and controlling. That's super dope. I love watching you guys' perspective. So what are you guys drinking? What you guys sipping on tonight?
Just some seltzer water, man. I'm keeping it chill, man. I was flying the Fearless before this, so you know.
The Fearless 747. Love it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. XP, what you got over there? What you drinking?
You know, I'm Mr. Jamaican with the white rum and the ginger ale, you know, just to settle my stomach. That's all it is, you know, nothing else.
I got something a little different this week.
Uh-oh, what do you got, bro? What is that? Is that dinner?
This is dinner. This is a pot of mac and cheese.
Oh my God.
I was trying to multitask and do while I was starting to stream. I was like, you know what? I think I timed that wrong. So it's just there. I'm probably not gonna be eating it because I don't usually eat, but I was gonna hide that off camera. But yeah.
Wow. Well, gentlemen, let's start it. Let's start it quick. Over
I feel like we have a lot to talk about. So let's get into
over the past year, Microsoft Flight Sim did a drop, and there's a bunch of new people who are now flying online, which in my opinion is a great thing. The more traffic, the better. I guess I want to start here for those new people. Plus, we have all the old heads who've been around, been in VATSIM, know a lot of the procedures and so forth. But a lot of people ask me sometime, what network are you on? I'm like, I'm on VATSIM. No, what server? No, I'm on VATSIM. So Umar or Brody, who want to take it? What is VATSIM and what do you guys provide?
Yeah, I think, Brody, if you're okay with me talking, I'll go for it. First of all, I want to say, whoever said who's waiting on the clearance over here who made some kind of comment, I just want to say, you guys need to slow your roll out here. I mean, come on, guys. Give these guys a chance, man. Come on. God, they're savages. Anyway, but no, so, yeah, VATSIM is definitely, it's an awesome network, first of all. If you know anything about Flight Sim, if you have any interest and you want to actually see what it's like to be on a live network, that's what it is. It's live controllers, live streamers, live people like XP are on there, and then you have live pilots as well. So rather than having to deal with the AI of being in Microsoft Flight Sim or X-Plane, you get to come onto a live network and talk to some awesome people like XP, me, and even Brody. And so it's just an awesome experience, and it gives you a lot of exposure into the real world of Flight Sim and checking out like what it's really like to talk to some people rather than just saying, you know, pressing a button and saying read back correct and just taxing out on your own. I think it's the best thing ever.
Oh yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. It's so much better than talking to. I mean, I don't really know anyone who uses X-Plane or Microsoft's in-game ATC. Like, I don't know anybody who uses it. Maybe somebody in chat does, but I don't know. For me, I like to hear a real person's voice. I like to be able to reply with my real person voice and be able to get a full IFR clearance, get a landing, get that, you know, clear to land, get that read back correct. You know what I mean? That's the stuff that I like to hear on the network. So yeah, I definitely agree with you there.
Yeah, I'm actually a huge VATSIM snob, meaning that when anybody comes on and go, hey, anybody knows how to fix the AI ATC in Microsoft or in X-Plane, I'm like, why would you even do that to yourself? You're gonna get led into a mountain. Get off VATSIM, in. But it's so daunting. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to start. And I'm like, man, there's tons of tutorials out there for VATSIM. jump on it, and it is going to take you a while to get used to it. So I guess the first question to you guys is like, how do you treat new simmers, new people to the network? Because I'm sure you know and hear what they sound like. What is it? Is there a procedure on that, or how do you guys individually treat new people in the network?
Yeah, sure. Well, with that UK, when we train, we obviously know that there's going to be a wide variety of people that with experience. We have real world pilots flying on this network, and then you have people that, it's their first or second time loading up into X-Plane 11 and know what an altitude selector is. So there's definitely a lot of variety on that. But when we train, we usually train for the worst. So we make sure to be clear with our instructions. In addition, for new pilots, it's really helpful when someone puts in their remarks, new pilot, because that gives us that extra little bit of information to maybe give them an easier taxi instruction rather than one that's longer and complicated. Rather than give you the whole thing, we'll taxi you one way, then hold you short and just kind of go step by step. But if we don't know that information out of the gate, it's kind of hard to gauge. Sometimes someone's voice is very young, and we can kind of easily read that, but that's not always the case. So yeah.
Well, and I would even say, Brody, I mean, I think you notice this too. Even if it's not someone young, you can just tell whenever they first come on the network and you say, American 255, New York, I have your clearance, are you ready? And they say, oh, okay, just give me a, like, they're having to think about just what the response is. Like you pick up on that immediately. And actually, I even prioritize that, So as for people who don't know, I'm a New York Center C1 rated center controller. So I work top down all of New York. And I prioritize that whenever I know that I'm dealing with someone who's maybe not as experienced. I'm giving, 5 clearances, 6 instructions, all sorts of different things. And then I make sure I give myself enough time to say, hey, American 255, are you ready for your clearance? And I go through it step by step with them and gives them, a chance to really read it back and understand what's going on. The last thing we want to do as controllers is push people away from something, especially, Brody, I think everyone here can say this, coming onto the network for the first time is scary. Like, I do not want to relive that moment again, but you know what? I'm so happy that I got to experience it. And now here I am.
I did want to say before we get too deep into the we kind of went right into it. I want to actually ask this before XP's first question, but can you quickly explain again who you are and where you control? Because I mean, people are seeing your your little icons down there, but like, where are you controlling at? And yeah, basically just who you are. Just real quick, just not a background, not a life story, but just saying where you control.
Yeah, sure. My name is Brody. You'll see me on the network as the one American in VAT UK, basically. I'm currently training for my S2. I do have an S2 partial rating, so I'm able to control some a tower station. I have my exam very shortly, so soon you'll be able to see me tower everywhere. But just because I'm only an S1 doesn't mean I've been with VAT UK for a long time. I've been controlling for them for over a year and now probably 6 months. So, and again, the reason for that we'll get into later. But yeah, if you're ever flying out of Gatwick, which is VATSIM's second busiest airport, you'll definitely see me on ground from time to time. And pretty much anywhere else in the UK, you'll see me around.
Awesome. Yeah. But yeah, so guys, my name's Umar. I am a VATSIM C1 rated controller, which means basically I can work a center position, specifically at New York. So I joined VATSIM about 8 years ago. I currently sit as a ZNY C1 controller. I'm also the New York RTEC events coordinator, which I'm sure we'll talk about that later.
Yes.
And then I'm also on VAT USA. I am a VAT USA NTMO under the command center, which we can talk about that as well. But that role basically just means I have an ability and some kind of leverage to be able to manage traffic around whenever you're flying during big events in VAT USA.
Nice.
Very cool. So thank you. So yeah, so we have Information Yankee down there. So I'm gonna call you because I like the name. Who is from VAT UK? And you say you control at Gatwick pretty often. And then on the left, bottom left, we have Usmaf, who is controlling around the New York area. So pretty cool. We got honestly 2 of the most popular airspaces here with us on the Blu-XPerience. I am honored.
I'm just as honored too. You guys are killing it. I just want to say everything you guys do. I think this is awesome.
Yeah, same here.
Shout out to you guys.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Appreciate you guys coming on. Let me pick up where you guys left off before that. We were talking about newbies because I think that might be one of the problems sometimes because there's issues, right? And we're going to get into the issues. do you recommend that new people to VATSIM make a notation on somewhere when they're filing a plan to say, hey, I'm new or something like that? How do you, other than just hearing it in their voice, is there a way for them to like signal it to you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as I said earlier, that note helps, but as me and Umar said, it's kind of easy to tell. But when you're aware of you being new, it gives you that like right out of the gate. Because if someone asks for a clearance and I talk real quick, and then he's like, "What just happened?" Then I'm like, "Oh, wait, he's new." Instead of being, "Oh, he's new," I'll go slower and slower. So that definitely helps a little bit. Definitely recommend it. There's no harm in doing it. Like, this is VATSIM, it's free. It's not like you get penalty points for being new.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I hear you.
I would definitely say one of the things that I've noticed most, and I tell anyone this whenever they first join VATSIM, is as a pilot, it's a big moment for you the first time you really key up on frequency. And especially if you don't have any piloting experience or anything like that, it's a moment because you don't know what's supposed to happen, or you don't know what the reaction is going to be if you're doing it right or even saying the right things. So my biggest piece of advice is when you first come onto the network, get comfortable with the controllers in places where it's maybe not as busy. And that'd be my biggest thing. So if you come on, you're looking at, when we talk about VATSPy, VATtastic, similar, all these other tools that shows where the traffic is. If you see maybe, Kansas City Center, or, you see Brody over here in Gatwick Tower, and it's not very busy, that's the first place I always recommend people to go. Go to the places where it's not as busy. That gives you an opportunity to really talk with the controller, because they're not busy doing other stuff. They are only talking to you. And they are more than happy to give you some extra time if you say, hey, this is my first time. I don't know what you said. Can you say that again? And they'll say, yeah, go for it. But if you show up on in an event like a JFK FNO or a big crazy Gatwick event, it may be a little bit more difficult to get your point across and say, hey, I'm new. I don't know what I'm doing. So just building up that confidence slowly but surely.
One thing
Yeah.
you brought up earlier, and XP kind of doubled on that too, was the remarks, and saying in the remarks that you're a new player, a new person. Honestly, I never thought anybody read that. So like, how big of a deal is that for controls? Are you trained to look at that? Like, how often are you looking at that? Does it matter what it says in the remarks section? Again, I think I like that idea of, if you're new, if this is your first time logging in, or maybe your first 3 times logging into VATSIM, putting in the remarks that, hey, I'm a new simmer, and that allows people like you guys, like you just both said, that, hey, I'm gonna give you some extra special attention to help guide you along the way. But how important is that remarks section?
Yeah. Brody, I know we look at it very closely. What about you guys? Like, we look at everything. What about you guys and VAT UK?
Yeah, same here, man. One thing, I'm not sure if you're on Euroscope or not. There's a bunch. By the way, there's a bunch of different clients that controllers use depending on the region. But in Europe and in some places in the United States, you'll see Euroscope. Euroscope, when we give a clearance, we have to look at your flight plan first, make sure everything's right. And as right underneath that flight plan is your remarks, so we're kind of forced to see it anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But we still have to look at it, and over time you learn. It's not a requirement that you look at the remarks, but it's kind of obvious to you.
Well, and even the remark sections, that's the point of the remark section, is
Yeah.
It's not mandatory at all from a pilot perspective to file that. Aside from the real world on VATSIM, there's no obligation to put anything in there. You can say, I love pizza in the remark section, and I'm going to laugh a little bit when I see it.
You're going to see it tomorrow.
Give me an idea. Nice. I hear you.
So on the back of that, so what are some things, besides somebody who's new to VATSIM or whatever, what are some things that would be really important for anybody, new or seasoned, to put in the remarks? Because I don't really ever use it that often unless SimBrief automatically puts something in there.
That's the beauty of the remark section. It honestly is only for something that is out of the ordinary. Because anything about your flight plan should be in other sections. Some people like to put "I'm streaming" if that's important to you in there, and it really is a place where anything is allowed. Anything within reason, of course, but it really is just a place where if there's something different about your flight, maybe your FMC is broken and you don't want to say it on frequency, and you just want to fly headings, maybe something like that. But I would usually say, if it's out of the ordinary, you usually don't fly like this, or maybe you haven't flown at all, that's when you put some in your remarks section.
Somebody in my chat just said that he's flying Microsoft Flight Sim in the remarks.
I was gonna. Can we go there? Can we go there? I don't know if
Go
XP,
ahead.
if you were thinking to go there later, but
I was gonna go later, but yeah, go there right now,
can we
man.
go
Do
there
it.
now? Okay, so moving on to that out of the remarks, because I think that's a fun subject, and I'm gonna have a lot of fun. I'm just letting you guys know in the future, my remarks will always be fun from now on. I'm gonna put a little something in there for me, a little something in there for you, from now on. But so for people who are on Microsoft Flight Simulator, I remember recently, I think it was Sim Update 5, there was an issue where if you were on Microsoft Flight Simulator, your altitude was off by like 1,000 feet. It was like crazy. So stuff like that and other issues like the planes doing weird stuff, like you may see an aircraft make a 180 out of nowhere and you gave them vectors to go this other direction. You know what I mean? Like, how are you handling the Microsoft Flight Simulator specific traffic on the network for VATSIM USA and UK?
I'd say from a US standpoint, you can definitely tell when someone's flying Microsoft Flight Sim, but if something happens and they're deviating off course or they're flying a heading or doing something and it doesn't work out, you can tell pretty quickly what happens. And so assuming you're not that busy anywhere else, it's very easy for you just to, give people headings or different altitude or inform them like, hey, you're falling off course, just verify you're direct. And the Microsoft Flight Sim definitely, when it's in the remarks, I know Brody was saying, that definitely helps me out a lot because it just right there, bing, bam, boom, or whatever, like you can tell, okay, maybe I need to, pay a little bit more attention, try and help this guy out a little bit more because, or even give him a little bit of slack because his sim may not work the way that he's expecting it to. I don't know about you though, Brody.
Yeah, in the UK, it's very similar to that. Very, very similar. There's definitely for us, it's a similar situation. Obviously, if you're Microsoft, just because you're flying Microsoft, we won't treat you differently. But if there's something that's clearly going wrong with you, we're gonna talk to you, regardless if you're flying Microsoft or X-Plane. But we just see that Microsoft pilots have those issues a lot more common, where their altitudes, their VNAV, their LNAV stuff is going wrong. I mean, unfortunately, not VNAV yet, but
Right.
there's a lot of things otherwise that sometimes go wrong, and we have to kind of adapt to the situation. We don't treat you differently because you're on Microsoft, but if something's going wrong, we have to, do something about it.
So besides the obvious flying failures that you may see on the radar, is there like anywhere on your application that you're using that says what sim people are running?
No clue.
I
People
think,
just tell me.
yeah.
I asked them and I say, hey, are you flying Microsoft Flight Sim? They said yes. I'm like, okay. Thanks.
There should be a command in Euroscope for it. I don't know at the top of my
Oh,
head,
there
and
we
I would have to go through the Euroscope manual for that. But again, it's something where it's you kind of get that vibe almost.
And I would like to add too, though, whether you're flying Microsoft Flight Sim or any other client or whatever software you're using, mistakes are bound to happen for everyone. And so even if you are making a mistake and something's going wrong, and the controller is probably going to call you out on it as soon as they see it happening, but that by no means is an indication that like, hey, you're not good enough to do it. Like everyone learns, everyone is making mistakes on this network. I mean, this is super far from the real world where real lives are at stake here, and and so we have the opportunity to have a great time in this sandbox, and we want to try and be realistic. Yeah, it's great if things work out and everything's perfect, but things are bound to happen. This is not the real world where the controller has to work for 3 years or 2 years to get his rating or his or her rating, and the pilot has to train for several years just to get their experience or their rating.
Good. And please don't argue with the controller. I think I hear it all sometimes on a network where I guess you get a vector or something that you don't like, or they're late with a call or whatever, and you give you give a command and they're like arguing. Don't argue with the controller. Come on, man. I hate that. I hate hearing, snappy remarks and whatever because you're pissed because something didn't happen. I was talking a little bit offline, and sometimes I have to remind the controller that, hey, should I go to tower? Should I go to departure? Whatever. And they'll be like, yeah, I'm sorry, go over. I mean, I guess this happens when you guys are overloaded. I mean, how do you guys deal with the workload on an F&O or an event? How does that happen?
Brody,
What
you
is
want to
that
go
like?
first?
Yeah, sure, man. So if you guys weren't aware, the UK's version of FNO is Midweek Madness, and it's basically where we stack one airport up, whether it's Heathrow, Gatwick, Manchester, kind of a variety airport. Definitely recommend that you guys try it. It's either Tuesdays or Wednesdays, and you'll see on the VATSIM map. It's like midday for people in the United States. How we deal with it is we just hold. We put people in established holds that have, headings. We don't just give them vectors off. But if the traffic is so bad that we actually have an issue, we can ground stop, but it's very rare to. So if you're flying an event in the UK, it's more than likely that you'll get out in a reasonable time. The one issue with the UK though is that we only have 1 or 2 runways per airport. And Dallas has 7.
Yep.
So it's a bit of a mismatch when it comes to that. But I think, the way we train is very effective in getting as many people out as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's definitely something very contrary to what you guys do in the VAT UK. In the US on VATSIM, if we are holding, it's a problem. If we go into holding and if you guys see us holding, it's because something is probably going wrong or the traffic is too high or something. Like, in Europe, I really love how you guys have all that stuff set up and the pilots are very open to it and all that stuff is published anyway, so it's a little bit easier. From the US standpoint, though, yeah, we love vectoring people around, giving people headings for 500 miles off the coast and then bringing them back in.
Yep.
Sorry, guys.
That's okay. I mean, well, this brings up this point I always thought about. Why doesn't the US have request to push from the gate? Ramp, right? No, it's not even ramp control, because every time I've flown in the UK or in Europe, it's like you have to request a pushback, right? No matter what.
Mhm.
Is that real world? And does the UK have an advantage to pushing people back from the gate whenever they can or are ready, versus the US, who doesn't have that most of the times?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's definitely a great question. I know. So the way it works real world is there is technically a ramp controller in the real world and all the big airports in the US. The difference is, though, that in the US, those ramp controllers are technically not employed by the FAA. They don't work for the FAA. They're actually employed by the local airline. And so when we, brought all these procedures and stuff to VATSIM from a US standpoint, we took that as a more different perspective and said they're technically not the, typical controller like you would expect, like ground or a tower and approach. So we're taking the position of we're not going to have ramp controllers on generally. Does that mean that in the US, though, we don't have ramp controllers at all? Actually, no. If you guys have ever flown into larger events, like I know just Kennedy, we had our F&O last Friday, we had ramp controllers online just to staff the ramp. And that's something, relatively new to the US and we've been working on for the last couple of years. But in general, it ends up working out. And I hear it all the time that, oh, hey, am I supposed to call for push? Technically, no, but that's not something that you would know anywhere else. And it's not as well published.
In the UK?
Yeah, in the UK, it's again different. We usually have a ground controller that covers any pushback. So no matter where you're flying in the UK, and I would assume everyone in Europe, I know everywhere I've flown in Europe does that, but maybe there's Moldova that does it differently. I don't know. But in the UK, you can basically expect to get your clearance and a call similar to call when ready for push and start. We usually give that to new pilots or maybe American pilots or different people that might not get used to the.
It's true. I get nervous and yelled at.
Man. When I see the Boston next to the call sign, I'm like, all right, we gotta give it to him. But yeah, the only difference is if you don't need a pushback, we'll just call when you're ready to start up, something like that. If you're a GA aircraft. But yeah, always ask for a pushback in Europe. It's just we give a little bit more of a service.
Gotcha. What's up with the Squawk 1000 in Europe?
The Squawk 1000, it's some FIRs doing it, some FIRs don't. We don't usually do that, but some places will basically tell you when you go to Unicom Squawk 1000. We don't do that. We just leave your squawk code as is. If the next FIR has to change it, then so be it. Or RTAC, excuse me. But yeah, we don't do that.
Yeah, I was
we do tell you your squawk before you leave the gate though, so you will have to squawk before you push back.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because I was flying in Austria yesterday, and he gave me Squawk 1000 for my pushback clearance. So I didn't actually get any other squawk. Now I was on, it was fully controlled, everything, and I got the same thing happen to me when I flew in Germany, I think last week. So I've noticed that a few times in the U.S. I've never gotten a situation where they give me a generic squat code. It's always a very, specific thing. But when I flew in Europe, I've noticed that sometimes they'll just give me like, and I hear it when I hear other people get their clearances, they get the exact same squat code. I'm like, how does that work exactly? So yeah.
Yeah, it could be a situation where it's a ramp control squawk. Kind of surprised that you have it all the way up to your cruiser whenever you're leaving the Austrian VAC. But yeah, we don't do that in the UK.
Okay.
Technically, fun fact, the VAT UK and VAT Europe are actually two separate regions, kind of had like VATSIM North America. So
Ah,
while we are very similar in procedures, we actually, we don't have to, we're just two different regions.
Gotcha.
right. Different things. All right, so let's move to a little bit to the meat and bones here. Let's talk about charts and how important or not important charts are. I mean, would you guys say that having charts is like 100% must, or where does a chart fall for you? And how much do you rely on us to know those charts like the back of our hands, or at least study them? What do you guys think?
I know in the VAT UK, you guys live and die by them. I know in the US, for example, depending on what kind of flight plan you're flying, if you're flying, VFR visual flight rules versus IFR instrument flight rules. If you're flying IFR, the charts are everything, and that's regardless of wherever you go, I think, on the VATSIM network. Whereas VFR, there's a little bit more leniency in terms of actually being able to have access to maybe a sectional or different charts. But no, there are so many tools. Speaking from the US standpoint, there are so many resources out there to be able to get access to free charts. I know SkyVector has charts, skyvector.com if you want to go there. Or even FlightAware, there's a section on there. If you just Google FlightAware charts, they have it. There are places all over that give you access to charts for free. And I would highly encourage people to take an opportunity to look at them. And if you don't know what they are, you can even just Google, how do I read an FAA chart? And there are videos and stuff everywhere to learn how to do that stuff.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the free chart. You don't need a Navigraph subscription to fly in VATSIM, but in the UK, as Omar said, charts are almost certainly a must because the airports are just so compact. In the US, you have like spaces for miles and miles of farmland that can just be turned into an airport at random. But in the UK, we don't have that. Every taxiway is so compact. In Gatwick, we don't have space for more taxiways right now, so we use a closed runway as a taxiway. That's how compact everything is, or not a closed, but a disused. And what we use in the UK is something called chartfox.org. It is free again, and you actually have to sign in with your VAT CID to use it for UK charts. I'm not sure about the rest of the world, but they are really good for what they do. And they also have I believe every SID and star as well, coming from any UK airport that you want. So definitely check out ChartFox as well. I know, however, I would say for US airports, SkyVector is probably better because they have all those free charts. Because in fact, the US gives out the charts for free, but the CIA does not.
Wow.
Yeah, I've always noticed that as a pilot flying on VATSIM, before I got into Navigraph and had a subscription where I just get charts for all over the world, I always really struggled getting charts in Canada and getting charts in anywhere in Europe, including the UK. And I mean, as an American, I'm not as knowledgeable of like where to get the free charts, So I'd always Google, and people would always ask me in my live streams like, hey, where do I get charts? And I'm like, well, first of all, if you're in the US, then it's amazing. You can just use SkyVector. All the charts you need are right there on SkyVector. IFR, VFR, sectional, everything you need right there. But if you're in Europe, I don't know. It's like you have to just basically Google. Like what I would do before I got the Navigraph subscription, I would go like, for example, if I'm flying in, I don't know, Munich or something like that, I would search. Was it EDDM? I believe EDDM. I'll search EDDM charts on Google, and then eventually it would come up. It's probably like 5 years old, but it's close. So that's what I would use, and then I would compare that to what SimBrief would give me for my IFR clearance, and then a lot of times the controller would give me a different SID or something because I'm using a different runway, and then I kind of have to cross, just do some science and then figure it out. But yeah, it's definitely more difficult from our point of view. I feel like if to get the charts over there, but ChartFox, that's dope.
I think that's something. Yeah, ChartFox is. Brody, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's pretty much worldwide. I think, right?
Yeah, I think so. Everywhere. I haven't used it for the US. I do have an Navigraph subscription, but I do have. I believe ChartFox is available in the US and around the world as well. I don't think they have every airport because it's a freeware collection almost. But I don't know about the specifics. I do know that we do use them as Fat UK. We do put them on our website and put them on our info. But yeah, I
Nice.
believe it is available for USA as well.
Nice. Do you guys recommend people ask for a progressive taxi, if they're not familiar with the airport, or is that too much work, or how does that work?
Yes.
Wait, yes. Ask for
Yes.
progressive taxi.
Yes.
Yes.
If not ever, I mean, if you know where you're going, don't ask for progressive. But
Right.
but
I'm
yeah,
just saying, if you say these things, we're gonna test you.
Yeah, maybe I need to
We're
be a
gonna
little more
test-
careful how I'm talking here. This is not just a TeamSpeak or Discord chat.
No, yes,
Right.
it is. This is only the four of
Yes,
us. It's
so
just a team.
if you are new to a field, an airport, or even me, I know when I go to fly around Europe sometimes, I don't know where I'm going. I ask if you do not know where you're going, and definitely the controllers will provide insight and help you out. I don't think there's absolutely nothing wrong in asking, even if, taxi, takeoff, whatever else is going on, if you don't understand something that a controller is asking you to do, the first thing that should always come back is say, sorry, I don't understand what you mean. Can you help me out? Always, if you don't understand, the best thing to do is, rather than just, not say anything and try and figure it out on your own and get it wrong, maybe, then always feel free to ask. We are, I know Brody will say the same thing over in VAT UK. The controllers are always there to help you guys.
Yeah. I mean, we're not getting paid for this. We don't have a demand of getting people as quickly as possible, like Pilot Edge, right? Our goal is to help you guys out, because almost every VATSIM controller is a pilot as well. So whatever we need help, we ask fellow controllers. Because I used to only fly in the United States when I first started on VATSIM. When I first got to Europe, I had no idea what I was doing. But now I have people doing the same thing when I'm controlling. So it's definitely a give and take. But I definitely highly recommend, if you ever need help because you don't know where you're going, like I'll spam the ChartFox link in the frequency chat to help you. But we will
Nice.
definitely give it progressive taxi if need be.
So what's the limit to that? Because I do want to compliment you guys on the fact that I have witnessed. I know we all have. You've been on VATSIM. You've heard it on the frequency of a controller kind of like being very patient. On free, like we know, like me and XP, we know what to say, we know what to do, we know the procedures and things like that. Most of them, and so we may hear some. I'm not gonna claim I know everything. I'm just
I've
saying
seen your guys' streams. I know.
You guys know, you've seen the streams. But I'm saying that sometimes, like for example, I heard a guy. I was flying around the Seattle area, and I heard a guy flying VFR, and I immediately knew that he knew nothing about flying VFR. Like, this is an airliner guy who flies IFR, who is flying VFR, and about to bust through the Seattle class Bravo. And that's exactly what he did. And I called it, and he flew through it. And the controller, he was very friendly about it. Like, hey, so you're flying into the class of Bravo. Let me go ahead and give you a flight following, which is basically giving you IFR as a VFR pilot. But point is, what is the limit to like how much you can help? Now I understand, and I think people should know that if you're in a busy airspace, like you're at an F&O, like a JFK F&O, or you're at one of the midweek madness over in the UK, it's probably not a good time to be asking for help. So what for us and for other people, like, what's a good time and a good place to be kind of like to know nothing, basically?
Well, I think Umar said it earlier. Go to airports that are less busy. If and I would even take it a step further. Go to an airport where there's a tower controller. There's someone, kind of condensed, because if you go to a center frequency, they might be having to deal with a lot of things. But you should also know that you should at least have some knowledge of your aircraft. You should know how to file. You should know how to plan to get on VATSIM, but you should know how to file your FMC somewhat properly. If you're not using VNAV, that's fine, but you should at least know how to do basic operational things in your aircraft.
Yeah.
I know one of the things I remember I first did when I first came on the network, which helped me a lot, was I would actually go and watch streamers do flights. So in the modern day today, I would go and watch Blue and XP, and I would watch you guys do a flight. I'd see, okay, you guys are flying, I don't know, Boston to DCA or something like that. And I'd see you guys with everything you do, the same airplane and everything. And then I go back on my own, completely offline. And the first thing I would do is fly the plane on my own and say, okay, what did they do? Oh, they hit this switch. Okay, got it. Okay, this isn't working. I need to go back and watch the stream again. What did they do? Oh, they forgot. Okay, you turn the packs off before you start the engine on the 7.3. Gotcha. The stuff that, Blue, you guys and XP are doing is, I think, right there, a perfect opportunity for people to watch and get an opportunity to see how does the plane work that I want to fly, and then coming onto the network. Because controllers, we can provide all the help in the world, but there's going to be some point where you're going to spawn up in a DC-6, and I'm going to tell you, I've never flown a DC-6. I don't know anything about it. Go on YouTube.
So don't expect to get advice on how to fly your aircraft, basically. Like if somebody's asking to, how do I, what do I say? Or, like if it's ATC or communication related, then that's something you can really help a bit more. But somebody's like, hey, so how do I turn my transponder on? Like that happened to me yesterday. I was like, I can't turn the transponder on the CRJ. And I had the controller had me sitting there waiting at the whole short line for 10 minutes. And I was like, hold on, can you see me now? Can you hear me now?
Oh my God. Wow. Hey, look, let me share my own personal story about my VATSIM road. I wanted to get on the network because once I learned how to fly the sim and Zebo was out and all that stuff, I was like, all right, I got to get on VATSIM because this is going to just bump my sim experience up 10 notch. And it has. And I'll never go back to fly offline like ever again. I'm sorry. But I remember going to Palm Beach, was my local airport. I knew that airport because that's the first one I jumped in when I got the sim. I know the taxiways, I know everything. Then once I knew that, I started doing flights out of it offline. And then once ATC came on, it kind of gave me a leg up because when he said taxiway, Charlie, cross runway, whatever, I actually even knew it in my head, but without having to look at the chart. So for you guys to be successful on VATSIM, you have to set yourself up for success. Like you literally, I had an iPad at the time, I had pen and paper at the time, and because you know what, I didn't want to be embarrassed on the network, and I would feel embarrassed if I got on a network and they're like, yo, do this, and I'm like, well, you know what I mean? So I think people gotta take ownership of their flying experience, meaning that you're joining a network with more people on there, and the last thing I want to do is get yelled at, and I've gotten yelled at many times because I just reading chat or didn't hear my call sign or some garbage like that. But you gotta come prepared, man. Which leads me to this point. Somebody said it in chat right now. How important is phraseology for you guys? And let me break it down this way. Phraseology has standard talking and repeating commands, but also keeping it short, knowing that you're in a busy airspace and there's 10 people ready to queue up as soon as you're done. How is it is phraseology important to you guys? And what do you think about that?
I feel like it's different from region to region, so I'm curious about that too.
Yeah, and that's what I was just going to say, Blue, is I'm not sure how it is in the VAT UK, but in the US, I think there's a lot more relaxation around saying things back exactly the way it was said from the control, as exactly the way the controller said it. So if I'm issuing, an ILS approach clearance, the full clearance would be American 125, you're 5 miles from Zalpo, turn left heading 250, maintain 3,000 until established in the localizer, clear ILS runway 22 left approach. As a pilot, if I'm flying, I'm gonna say, okay, turn left heading 250, 3 to establish, clear the ILS 22 left. Thanks, appreciate it. I know what to say and the things that the controller needs. And so in the US, it's very much reading back the things that are important. So if you're getting a taxi clearance, it's important that you say the taxiways that was assigned to you. Turn left on Bravo, Yankee, hold short of Juliet, or whatever. Those kinds of stuff are important. Well, maybe it's, the controller just wants to have a conversation. Say, hey, American 255, hope you're having a great day. Descend to maintain 3,000 now. You don't need to read back, okay, yeah, we're having a great day. Thank you so much. Stick to, you just need to, if you really want to stick to the real basics, it's just, are you cleared for the ILS? Yes or no? Okay, I need to read that back. Am I cleared to land? Yes, I should probably say I'm cleared to land. So the controller is affirming that I know that I'm cleared to land. Or, I need to go around? I should probably say I need to go around. I don't know how it is though in the VAT UK, Brody. Do you guys just make everyone read back everything verbatim?
So we're a bit more strict in the UK. And the reason why we're a bit more strict is because, and this is no disrespect to VAT USA, and you guys are doing real world, but why say 5 miles from a fix that you're already going towards anyways? I'm just saying. But what we do is basically we shorten the conversation down. And that's how we do in real life too in the UK, because a clearance for us can be 4 words, because everything else you can find in the ATIS, you can find in plenty of different other regions. We don't have to give that whole thing out at once. But in the USA, because you guys have to do every little bit of information in your clearance, like your climb, because a lot of SIDs in the United States don't have RNAV, and they're just vectors. we don't have to give that information out. But because in the US you have to give out so much information, there's some stuff that is automatic and you can let out. That doesn't mean we don't have fun on the frequency, but that does mean that you have to read back pretty much everything, unless if it's like have a nice day or something.
Is it okay? Because I do this a lot. Because Brody just read off approach clearance there, and it's a lot even when you hear it. But I've kind of taught myself to pick up on maybe 3 key things: altitude, heading, speed, and then maybe the altimeter at a stop. So I can actually remember that without having to write it down. And so sometime my readback would be 180 on the speed, 220 heading, down to 5,000. Is that okay to do?
In the US, yes. Go for it all day.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure, and that's the tip. I did do a VATSIM tutorial. I don't know how accurate it is, but, I was trying to tell guys to, when they write down on a notepad, just write down the things. Don't write every word in between, because you'll never get it. Like it's a lot of words to remember. Pick out the key pieces of information that you heard, which is what really counts, and read those back. And for God's sake, don't say "with you" when you. Yeah, but
to add on to that a little bit more too. I think it just comes with time as well. As you get more exposure into the network and fly on it more, you'll start to pick up on the things that you need to say and you need not to say. In the US, we're very fortunate enough to have something called liveatc.net for anyone who's ever heard of it. As a aviation nerd, probably one of my most visited websites on my computer.
True.
But if you go on there, they have just about every single feed for every single real world airport in the United States of America. And you can go click on these feeds and just listen to them talk. Is it busy? Is it a busy night? You got your flight radar, your flight aware open, and you see a 3-hour ground delay or something in real world in Boston. I guarantee you there are a lot of people on live ATC listening to the real world frequencies. And that's if you want to learn about, phraseology and the ability to listen and talk and what needs to be said, I think that's an amazing place to go, because that is from the source, from the real world.
Yeah, but here's the difference. In the UK, it's actually illegal to kind of listen to frequencies.
Oh, really?
It's you can't rebroadcast it. There are people that I know that live in the UK that have radios that listen in anyways. I mean, they're not going to get arrested. I mean, what are they going to do? But it is technically illegal. And that's why you see a lot less flying videos in the UK. They have to get permission to post something like that. You definitely can't listen to it live and rebroadcast it live. But
Wow.
I do say this because of how much we do know from videos and stuff like that, and so many real pilots, so many real controllers, so many people within the airport. We do things in VAT UK to such a realistic level, and I would say the same thing to VAT USA, because they're more relaxed. But in real life, the VAT USA is more real life. The USA is more relaxed when it comes to controlling. So it's definitely not less realistic. But in the UK, there is realism in being more strict about certain things, about phraseology. We don't care because we're not flying in real life. If someone says, like, if we say, turn right heading 220, once established, clear to descend via the glide, it's something like that. And they don't read that back. They just say clear to establish, something like that. It's not that big of a deal. In the real world, it would be much more of a big deal. They would say that again, basically, or something like
Oh,
that.
wow.
They would want you to say every little word about it. We try to encourage that, especially for people from the UK, or not people from the UK, but people that have been flying within the UK a lot, because then by the time they should be able to do that. But for someone flying from Boston, doesn't know the clue what they're doing in the UK sector, we won't ask them over and over again.
Yeah, that's me. That is me right there. It's true. No, I mean, this is great information. I'm loving this discussion here. There's so many more questions to ask. I've been copying and pasting them from chat, because the chat has been showing them out left and right.
Oh yeah.
Is there any way to see how many hours a particular pilot has on VATSIM when you're controlling?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
There's a VATSIM stats website. I think it's stats.vatsim.net. You can actually search up any pilot or any controller and see exactly where they flew and where they control.
Do,
It
do
keeps
you
record of
see it?
all that.
Do you see it,
Um,
or you don't have time?
we don't see it in the client, But if there's a pilot that's, being purposely annoying or something like that, I can take a quick peek because the only thing you need is their CID, and when you control, you do see other people's CIDs, so
Right.
you can always check and see, oh, have they been kicked off the network like 20 times for the same thing? But
Yes.
it really is something where it's not very important about someone's hours. I don't look at someone's hours. I don't look at hours at the first place, but if I saw someone person's hours, I wouldn't instantly say, oh, they're a new flyer, because maybe they're a real life pilot trying VATSIM for the first time. I
Hmm.
have a friend who streams on Twitch, MT320 underscore, and he's a real life pilot with a certain orange airline in the UK. Wink, wink. But
Wow.
when he first got on VATSIM, it was like, he knew the phraseology in the UK, he knew XYZ in the UK, he didn't know how to work VATSIM because it's a slightly different experience to compare to the real life when it
Mhm.
comes to, you don't have to talk to someone on the ground to get your all your flight information and stuff like that about how many passengers. You just randomly choose from 0 to 200, so there's definitely some differences, but we don't look at people's hours and say, oh, he's new, we have to give him X amount of attention. He's older on VATSIM. We don't have to care about him at all. It's nothing like that.
Gotcha. I mean, another one is this. Talk about kicking people in the network. Do you guys have powers as just regular controllers to ban somebody from the network, or that has to go up the chain of command to have happen? And how long does that take? Just curious.
So we, as ordinary controllers, not part of any sort of higher level position, no. I cannot sign on to the network, work a position, and just say, oh, you're a bad pilot, boop, you're gone, click a button. I can't do that. What actually ends up happening is there is a group of people in VATSIM called VATSIM supervisors. And so who these people are is they've been very kind to volunteer themselves for this group, where basically at no point in time that you will have 24/7 coverage on the network with at least one VATSIM supervisor. They will be on at all times, monitoring the entire network, not watching everyone and listening to every frequency, but they will be on there, because what happens is, if you're if you're a controller, you're really busy, or maybe a pilot is doing something, or a controller even is doing something they shouldn't be doing. There's a function for us as controllers to basically summon them and send them a private message, say, hey, pilot 123 or controller XYZ, they are doing this, this, and this. Can you please help me out? And they will send a message back and say, hey, my name is blah, blah, blah. I'm a supervisor. Let me help you with this issue. And you will have a short conversation with them via DM, basically, working out the issue. And if it ends up being that, this pilot, the supervisor will try reaching out to the pilot as well and say, hey, you need to be on this frequency, or you need to help out and do X, Y, and Z. If they're not responding, that's, the ultimate power of the supervisor has that call on whether, and they have very specific rules laid out in the VATSIM code of conduct and policies on what they can and cannot kick or wall up, or remove people from the network for. And so that's entirely their realm, and we just have the ability to be able to summon them and ask them, like, hey, can you look into this, please?
Yeah, I think I have to confess that maybe it was a good thing that you guys didn't have a banning powers, because
Nope.
there was one flight that I did that there was a long line. This is when this whole conga line thing started developing, and I was waiting on the ground. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go offline and take off and join back to flight and the network once I get to cruise. Oh, boy.
Oh, no.
I got contacted
So
by supervisors like, yo, don't do that, man.
there's
Yeah.
from what I understand, and maybe I'm completely wrong here, but there's technically no rule, I think. Maybe I'm wrong
Be
again.
careful with your
I
words.
Yes, there may not entirely be a rule that says like you can just
Right.
jump the line to sign off for it. But does that mean that a supervisor is gonna not just let it slide? No. I mean, especially if there are 30 planes in line, XP, you or Blue, you guys are doing a stream, and we got like 5 people disconnecting, they all reconnect in the center airspace. That's a lot of work, man. I'm gonna have to do a lot of sequencing. I'm gonna be vectoring people all over the place to make that right. And so generally, it's very discouraged if we can help it. But if there's a long cargo line, we totally get it as controllers too. You guys do not like sitting on the ground and sitting in a line for an hour and a half waiting to get your takeoff clearance, just as much as we like sitting there watching how long the line is, knowing how much work we have to do. And so it's very much a balancing act from a traffic management standpoint of how do we make sure we get everyone out as quickly as possible, but then at the same time, we're not stacking people, a mile behind each other on the final into the runway, and everyone has to go around because there's just not enough room.
Gotcha. And which brings up a point, talk about clearance. I mean, I guess, most people know now I've run into this problem where, well, it's not a problem, but the situation where now I show up to stream and there's a million guys show up. And I'm so thankful for just having that privilege for now that people want to fly along with me. Does every controller have the power to do PDCs? Is it preferred? Is it recommended? Is it not? What do you think we should do to help you guys out to be able to issue clearance quicker, more efficiently, without 10 guys calling you up and say, "Hey man, what number am I in the line?" Something like that. How does that work? How's that process?
Brody.
Yeah, sure. So I'm no diss on Vat USA. I know they're in the chat. I know they're looking around. But in the UK, we don't allow an order of clearances to happen. If there's a situation where the frequency is so busy that multiple people are calling up for clearance at the same time, and there's not like a delay, but there's a feeling that everyone wants to get their clearance out at once, more than likely there'll be a delivery station in the UK. We're fortunate that a lot of S1s that are new to controlling, they'll sometimes want to do delivery because they don't want to, get on a full ground position yet. Delivery is very common in the UK. It's very they're still trained the same amount as a ground controller, but they are specifically for clearances and clearances only, not even pushbacks like a ramp controller. And they get that sorted. When someone calls for a clearance in the UK, you get your clearance back immediately, like that. There's no queue. And I think the issue is when a controller says, and this is my personal opinion, when a controller in the US or anywhere really says, call you back your number, blah, blah, in line, that's not really their fault because the clearance that they have to give is so long. In the UK, a clearance is cleared to XYZ departure, squawk XYZ. Done. That's it. There's no climb to, there's nothing about that. And because of that, we can get clearances out a lot more efficiently. We can get clearances out more quickly. And I think that's why that UK, you'll never see a clearance delay like that.
Yeah.
So the US have it harder then.
So on VATSIM, the way that it's broken out by all the different RTECs within the VAT USA division is it's very much up to the discretion of each individual RTEC. There are some RTECs, you guys have probably seen it maybe like in Atlanta or somewhere else. I know Atlanta does it a lot, where they use PDCs almost exclusively. Yep. And as soon as, within 20 seconds of you hitting submit flight plan, you got that PDC in your inbox ready to go. There are other places like New York, for example, during our JFK FNO, we were giving out voice clearances almost the entire night, if not the entire night, I believe. And that's just because in some other places, it's maybe not that it's frowned upon or anything, but it's just not utilized nearly as much. And so that comes down as well to controller preference as well. Sometimes some controllers, they love it. Other controllers like, myself, if I'm not busy, I give out voice clearances all the time. I have no problem with that. On the other hand, if it does get very busy, then yeah, PDCs are probably the way to go. So from a pilot standpoint, though, it seems like the UK, you guys don't have any issues with delivery, which is great. But in the US, if you're on a delivery position and they are giving out voice clearances and it's just taking a while and there are 35 people on the ground because Blue and XP decided to do a group flight together, or let's say there are 60. Actually, it'll probably be like 65 if you guys fly together on the group flight. But if you get on there and you just hear the delivery controller going, and every single time, as soon as he unkeys, it's just 7 people trying to talk at once.
Yeah.
Honestly, my first response is, and I do this actually whenever on the off times that I am on delivery and it's just super saturated, what I end up saying is, if you're looking for a clearance, I know you're on voice for a reason, but just me personally, send a message in the frequency chat. Say, hey, I'm looking for clearance. And I will add you to my list of literally a piece of paper I have that has a line of aircraft that are looking for clearances, and I'll just go down the line. So that way, one, you're not congesting the frequency because for whatever reason, I'm still giving voice clearances. So sending those messages in the frequency chat can definitely relieve the congestion of the frequency itself.
Good to know. That is really good to know because there's been times where I would just, you can kind of get frustrated as well if the
Yeah.
if the frequency is just running. I mean, you're getting people saying clearances and people reading back clearances, and then you're trying to get in, but
Yep.
then somebody else is getting in, somebody else is landing.
Right.
And it's a good tip to say, hey, just type in chat. Hey, add me to the list. I think that's super easy to do.
Yeah,
How long does a clearance last for? Because here's what I've been doing. If let's say I'm starting streaming at 7, I'll log on at 6 and get on a network and file my plan. Then I'll get a PDC or a clearance. How long does it last for?
Giving the clearance out over voice for us is, I mean, I can give you an example right now. American 123, Kennedy clearance delivery cleared to the Boston airport. Kennedy 5 departure. Radar vectors marathon as filed. Maintain 5,000. Expect flight level 210 minutes after departure. Departure frequency is going to be 125.32 tonight. Squawk 1234.
Jeez,
In the
that's
U.S.,
long.
the full clearance takes forever. It's a long time.
After what he said about VATSIM in the UK, I was like, holy crap, that is long. It took you 5 minutes to say that.
Saying that 40 times. Imagine saying that 40 times.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So how long is a clearance good for once I get it?
Oh, sorry. So good
That
for
was good.
in good for in the U.S. I don't know about that UK, but I don't think there's official policy anywhere. But in my opinion, if you were here like within the last 3 hours and you come back and you tell me like, hey, I got the flight plan, I'm gonna say, okay, yeah, you're still cleared. I'm not gonna make you refile it and like give you the clearance. I don't know though. About UK, do you guys have a specific policy?
So we don't have. Yeah, we don't have an official. I've never been trained on something like that because this almost never happens. But one thing that is to note, a lot of places in the USA close off. I believe it's like RTAC exit and entry points due to weather, stuff like that. So maybe you have to be re-cleared off something like that. We don't do that in the UK where we have to close someone's route because of weather. So basically, the only way you'd have to get your clearance is invalid is if there's a runway change. And those almost never happen because we only have 1 or 2 runways anyways. So unless if there's such a wind change where we have to switch to a different runway, we'll call you up. But yeah, there's nothing really in that UK. Like even if you spawn in 4 hours later, more than likely because of how winds work in the UK, you'll be on the same runway, so it won't really matter.
I thought I saw somewhere, like if you're using SimBrief and use like the pre-file function or pre-file on like any of the third-party apps, that clearance only lasts for like an hour in the system. This is before even connecting to VATSIM.
Yeah, that's a VATSIM thing. I swear, I think it was either an hour or 24 hours. I can't really recall, but that's something where if you pre-file to the network with your call sign, basically, if you log onto the network with that call sign, your flight plan's already on the VATSIM network. I think though, other people can actually log on with your call sign in advance, and they won't take your flight plan, but they will prevent you from logging on with that call sign.
And I'm sitting here in chat, and some people have messaged me. So in the US, it is 2 hours is the clearance time from when you get it to when you need, the clearance is no longer valid and you need a new one.
So if you're going to fly an F&O and you want to start at a specific time, log on earlier, get your clearance, and then good to go. Yeah, I think that will help a lot with the congestion and 40 guys showing up at the same time. I just log on before, get it, so when I start setting up, I already have it. I don't have to wait because by the time you jump in, oh yeah, you're number 15 in line. Like what? Yeah, gotcha. Wow. Well, quick question: would you recommend that? Is there a VATSIM? What do you call it now? Pilot rating system? Is there one like Pilot Edge?
Yes.
Do you recommend people doing that if they're new to the network or no?
So I know in the US, and I don't know how global this goes out, but so just in general, VATSIM, the answer to your question is yes, there is a pilot rating system. I know I have one of the ratings on there. I'm a bad pilot. I need to get my ratings, but I don't. But there is a VATSIM pilot rating system out there. Right now on VATSIM, there's no requirement for you to have the rating to be able to fly. You can fly without one, and anyone can fly. What is out there though that maybe isn't as popular is there is a group, there's an organization out there called VATSTAR, VATSTAR. You can find them on Google or wherever, whatever, Bing or Yahoo if you use that to search. And if you go onto their website, they're one of the organizations on VATSIM, not the official one, there are several, but they provide the ability to get pilot ratings. And they have a fantastic system set up and modules and courses and live instructors even to go through with you, basically to get what the ratings that you're looking for. And so I'd highly recommend for people that if you don't really know where to go and you don't know where to go on YouTube even, and how to figure out how to fly in the network, an organization like VATSTAR, and I know there are other official organizations that people in here can probably mention, but VATSTAR to me is the first one that comes to mind, that they can really help get you off the ground and show you, hey, this is how to file a flight plan, or this is what an IFR clearance looks like, and this is how to deal with those kinds of things.
I think that would be great. I think I would recommend people go through that. I personally went through Pilot Edge's CAT rating system, and I learned so much about VFR, because I learned about IFR when I first got into VATSIM. That's when I learned how to fly IFR and do clearances and things like that, the basic, But I didn't know anything about VFR, and VFR is kind of a different animal when it comes to communications. And so having that system there is the whole reason I even understand it, that I know what to say. And I think it's important for people to have something like that for VATSIM. And again, I think there's YouTube tutorials, like you mentioned earlier. You can watch people do videos, stuff like that about it as well, and that'll be helpful. But I think having some type of program that you can go through on your own in your simulator to teach you, okay, I'm going from not knowing anything about what to say. I'm VATSIM scares me, right? I don't know what to say when I key up the mic. Being able to go from that to flying a full IFR flight, long haul or something, whatever your dream is, your virtual aviation dream is, being able to do that and have a system to teach you how to do that, I think that's really good. I think I recommend that.
Yeah, one other thing though is, in fact, VAT UK also has its own pilot training system within the UK, and that's actually we have pilot instructors as well, live training. I think I've heard of VATSTAR as well. So I'm not sure if they're worldwide or within the US, but if VATSTAR doesn't offer UK training, I believe you have to be a member of VAT UK in the first place to get our training. But if you are with VAT UK, I highly recommend it. I personally don't have my pilot ratings. I don't really need them to fly. But if you want to become a better flyer in the UK with VFR than IFR, I definitely recommend the VAT UK pilot training program.
Nice. So here's a very serious question. Would you guys ever allow me, when I'm flying my 787, to overtake people at 49,000 feet? I mean, the airplane can go. This is a serious question. We could do Mach 0.85 in the 787, and some guys can barely do Mach 0.78. Is that allowed or no at all? If I'm higher and I'm faster, do you guys allow overtaking or no? You got to be sequenced behind the other guy.
So in the US, there's no hard or fast rule that says, this sequence has to stay the way it is. XP is number 25 in line. He has to stay 25 the entire night until he lands 3.5 hours later. There's no rule like that out there. The general flow ends up going as a controller is, if you're number 25 in line and everyone in front of you is flying to the same airport, it kind of makes sense to just keep everyone in line because it's less work for the controller. Tell everyone to maintain the exact same speed at different altitudes or whatever, as long as the ground speeds are the same and they're all going to the same place, they just stay in a nice, easy line, and it's easy for the controller. Not that, when there are 45 people departing Denver, it's easy for anyone. But definitely, I know whenever I'm working traffic, that's something I actually end up looking at. The 787, the A350, even the 380, and some other aircraft, even the 74, they can get up, do Mach 8.5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and they can just cruise. They will beat everyone out there in the sky that's a 7.3 or even a CJ or an RJ or something like that. And so there will be times where, I'll give people shortcuts. I'll give XP72 or Blue a nice little shortcut and tell them keep it fast for me. I need to get you in. I need to get the sequence worked out. But no, I know it's something that can be done. It's just from a controller standpoint, especially if it's very busy or the sequence has maybe already been built, then it's a little bit more difficult to accommodate, but not impossible. Never impossible.
Gotcha.
Yeah, in the UK, I'm not an area controller, but I do know of my fellow VAT UK controllers that are area controllers that have talked to me and other people about it. And from flying in the UK, you'll often see a reduced speed command. And it's not so common as it's just because the UK is very compact. So vectors to get around somebody are a lot less common, but you can be given a climb further instruction perhaps. And if you're on a different flight level and you're cruising and you're 5 hours away from destination, you can easily overtake. But as Umar said, if you're coming into an event, or if you're coming into some type of sequence, as like an XP trail is, more than likely you'll be in a line and stay in that way, just because it's easier for everyone to get in. If there's
Nice.
someone that's like somehow that's like spawned in as like a king air and is going extremely slowly, then that's a different story. Or some pressurized PC. I don't know, but
Man,
sometimes
I still slow down the CJ. If you're in a working title CJ4, I'm slowing you down, man. You're too
Yeah.
slow for me.
I have a question in chat. I'm not sure if any of you guys could answer this. He says that, what about submitting real world ratings on the VATSIM? There's apparently a place on the VATSIM where you could actually submit your real world ratings. Does that matter, or what do you think about that?
From a controlling standpoint, yeah. So if you're a controller in real life, you pretty much automatically get your ratings. I mean, there's a test to make sure that you're not just bluffing and trying to get a free I1. But usually, if you're any type of controller in real life, controlling any type of FIR or RTAC, you will get a rating relative to your real life world experience. And usually, because of the fact that you're real world, it's probably a lot easier to get ratings above that because of your actual experience.
Gotcha.
From a pilot standpoint, in terms of the pilot ratings, maybe there's something out there. As someone who's not as into the piloting world as I am the controlling, I honestly can't tell you. And I'm sure someone in the chat here, I know Bat USA is in here tonight, and they'll probably be able to enlighten us all. But I'm not entirely aware. I think, though, at the same time, from a pilot standpoint, you don't need any pilot ratings to fly anywhere on the network. There's no, you have to have this certain level of rating to be able to fly into an event. So maybe there's also not as much pressure, I would assume. If you're a real world pilot, it's going to show whenever you show up and you call for clearance, or you're looking for a taxi, or whatever.
So basically, it's just a way to kind of like, beef up your profile. It doesn't actually have any real benefits to the network.
I would say,
as a pilot,
yes and no. Yes, it does look nice. I do love my P1 rating on my profile, but at the same time, I would still argue that it's very beneficial for people, especially if you don't know what you're doing. If I was coming on the VATSIM now, I would definitely go to the pilot rating system and go to someone like a VAT UK or a VAT Star, even if the rating doesn't, from a technical standpoint, matter that much to fly on the network. It still gives you that ability to be able to learn very hands-on how to fly an aircraft, how to file a flight plan. What does a SID or a star mean? Like, what are those? Like, those are stuff they help walk you through. So if it's not just for the rating, then what it really is for your own knowledge.
Good to go. All right. So from both of you guys, what is the biggest pet peeve that you guys have with flyers on a network, and what would you recommend people do differently? Just off the top of your
trying
head.
to get us in trouble.
I love this question. I've been waiting for this one.
You go first, Brody.
All right, yeah. Visiting side will go first.
And
I
you
guess.
can be honest. It's just the four of us.
Right. So there's
Yeah.
two main things. First of all, I see a lot of pilots sometimes don't really understand how to log on VATSIM correctly, and they don't do the full 3-letter code of an airline. So I'll see like AA212 and they call up as American, and that kind of gets on my nerves a little bit. Yeah, something. I did that when I first started too. So it's not like, I'm being fishy about it, but it's definitely something where, especially when they try calling up over and over again, you kind of have to like nudge them to, correct their mistake. Otherwise, you have to correct them for them, which is kind of embarrassing for them and kind of, takes time away from the frequency. The other thing is just, if it just learn as you go. If someone makes a mistake and they make an honest mistake, there's absolutely no reason for any controller to get mad, get upset. But if someone makes the same mistake over and over again, and maybe a supervisor tells them, "Hey, this is what you got to improve on because something's wrong on the frequency," and they don't do it, it's kind of annoying because it just delays other people's experience and your future experience. So if there's something that you're doing wrong that a supervisor has to talk to you about, just make sure that you try to improve on that, because if you do, it'll feel a lot better for you. Because I know, as of someone that when I first started on VATSIM, I did a call sign thing, I did a whole bunch of other things wrong, and it sucked. But then when I realized how wrong it was, and now how I fly compared to that, it felt much better, much better.
Okay, so I have to make a confession. I was wrong on the pilot rating thing for real world pilots. So if you are a real world pilot, as I'm being informed now, you do get the equivalent VATSIM rating. You can go, there's a process you can go through on the VATSIM website where if you have the rating, you can, you can get the equivalent rating on the VATSIM network. In terms of pet peeves, the biggest thing I noticed, and I see this just because I work a lot of en route traffic as a center controller, is different wind speeds, different weathers that people are running. So if you have a line of people and Blue and XP are flying in with 70 pilots from Atlanta to Boston or something, it shows really fast when, maybe someone there are 20 people using real world weather, whether it's active sky or whatever else other weather engines are out there. There are a lot of free weather engines out there too, but whether you're using that and then there are, 2 or 3 guys that you see them flying in, you ask them what their Mach number is, and they said, yeah, we're on the red line, we're doing Mach 8.5. And I say, I don't think so, because your ground speed is about 70 knots slower than everyone else. And we need to fix that, and we need to do something. So as a center controller, I manipulate that a lot. Is I ask people, hey, what's your indicated, what Mach number are you using? What's your indicated airspeed? And then I play with that as needed, because everyone's, it's not the real world where the simulator, everyone's on the same weather. Everyone's on slightly different weather, but the people who are not using any weather, real world weather whatsoever, that shows really fast, and it can cause a lot of problems really fast as well. So the solution to that, if you just Google VATSIM or X-Plane free real world weather plugin or something, like maybe XP and Blue, you guys can speak to that as well. I know there are a bunch of free stuff out there, even that it may not be an active sky, but it definitely gets the job done and makes our job a lot easier.
I actually never thought about that, honestly.
Yeah, that's true. But there's one thing also. No, VATSIM, one of the VATSIM clients, if you're flying X-Plane, and the way X-Plane works is that if your sim drops below 19 FPS, it will slow down your time so if you say you're going 400 across the ground, you're not, if your sim is below 19 FPS. So I know it starts to slow down. And what I used to do when I just started simming my little potato PC, there's a plugin called Auto Speed plugin, where if your sim drops below 19 FPS, it will automatically adjust it for you. So even if your frames look like crap, it still keeps you at a proper speed with everybody else that's flying on the network. Right, it doesn't slow you down. So along with the weather, I know I used to get kicked off of, was it Xpilot? If it dropped, even sometimes coming to New York, because New York is so saturated, I get kicked off the network temporarily because my frame dropped. So as simmers, I think you should be aware of that you might be like, oh yeah, my speed is good, I'm doing 250. No, you're not. It says so in the instruments, but you're quarter of that speed or half that speed because your frames are so low coming in. So it would benefit you guys if you have X-Plane and not such a good PC and there's a frame problem. It's called Auto Speed plugin. I used to use it a lot. Like
I still use it.
Oh, really? Wow.
As someone who tries to fly sometimes, I know one of the first things I always do anytime I'm flying somewhere new and there's an event somewhere, whenever I get that free scenery or I buy a scenery or something, the first thing I do is spawn up with that plane in the airport and just see, hey, are my frames at least somewhat okay? Or am I getting close to that threshold where it's not going to work and there are going to be problems? That's, try before, I guess, you fly. Try before you fly. Yeah. I guess that works.
So is this something I'm assuming that like the controllers pushed as because this didn't actually start happening until maybe a couple of years ago where they changed. Yeah, well they changed where you have to be above 1920 FPS in order to stay on the network, and so all the add-ons followed suit. And was that something the controllers were pushing, or did it just happen? You guys had no idea it was coming.
I don't know about VAT UK, but I know in VAT USA, specifically in New York, as XP was saying, yeah, we saw it a lot. I mean, you fly in, you got LaGuardia, you got Dreswecki Design, you got something on there. You got all 3 airports. You got the Manhattan skyline maxed out with every single building and every single car on the ground, and your frames just suck. And you're going down there, and your ground speed says 400, and you're going at half rate or something like that just to try and keep up without the sim crashing. So I know we saw it a lot. Did we push for it? I honestly don't know the politics behind how all of that happened, but I wouldn't be surprised if, we've definitely said stuff in the past.
Yeah, exact same thing pretty much. With VAT UK, we also saw it. I don't know if we pushed it, but I wouldn't be surprised if we did, especially because of how trolling we are. We're controllers.
Controlling controllers. There you go. Exactly. I mean, and also somebody in chat was saying about live weather. You know, a lot of times people are flying on preset weather and they don't realize it. Is that something you guys ever push people to say, hey, make sure you're on live weather and not preset weather? Because preset weather comes with like no winds or something like that. I don't know. You know.
Yeah, go for it, bro.
Yeah. Please fly real world weather. If you're flying somewhere where on the ground maybe you want it to be really foggy, I mean that's not the biggest deal. It's kind of a pet peeve, but it's not a big deal. But if you're at cruise and your cruising speed is drastically different than everyone else because instead of a tailwind of 20 knots, you've got a headwind of 110 because you're trying to see how slow you can go. That's a problem because it affects other people. So definitely try to go real weather in any scenario on VATSIM. Especially if you're like going storm chasing, you know, if you're flying into a hurricane like I did New Orleans, like that's fun on real world weather with everyone else around.
Right.
I'll tell you right now how it's going to go if I'm working New York Center. I see a guy going slow. I'm cutting him off, turn 20 degrees left, 30 degrees left, vector for sequence, slow down to your slowest practical airspeed now, and I'm going to put you in the back, is what I'm going to do personally. Not speaking for anyone else, that's what I'm going to do, because if your weather isn't matching up with everyone else, I can't work with you and get you to match. I'm not going to tell everyone else that's doing Mach 7.8 and 450 knots. I'm not going to tell everyone to slow down to Mach 6.5 or something, and everyone still has an hour and a half to go. That's just the way that I'm doing it. Or, you know, I'll descend you, put you in an altitude where I can put people above you and below you and put you past. But yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Sorry, but that's the reality.
Nice. One more thing that I heard on this last one I did from LA to Denver. I'm aware of it more now. A lot of people are missing radio calls, like for whatever reason they're listening to me flying while they're flying at the same time or whatever. And how big a pet peeve is that for people not missing their radio calls? You call them 2 or 3 times, they're not responding, and then go, oh yeah, I'm here. How big is that for you guys?
I'll say for me, if I'm busy, for example, the worst is when it's busy and you're working, 25 airplanes or something, and you're trying to get clearances out or do something else. That becomes an issue because I'm going to talk to you. If you don't respond, I'm going to move on to someone else really fast, and then I'll come back to you later. If it's not busy, call back. It happens real world all the time where 2 pilots real are sitting there eating lunch or something in the cruise, in the airplane. They miss a call. It's fine. It happens. But if it's really busy and stuff, there's, I think, an expectation that as a pilot, like I know I turn down my music whenever I'm flying. I turn the music down if I know the controller's busy because they want me to respond when they need me to respond. And so if you miss a call, it's fine. But I would just say you can tell when the controller is busy and they're doing a lot. Especially then, you should be listening to the frequency and maybe turn down the music a little bit.
Yeah, exact same thing. If it's something busy like midweek madness and we have like 50, 60, 70 departures out of Gatwick, I'm not going to spend my time looking for you over and over again. But if it's something where it's a quiet and you're away for a second, it's not a big deal. But you have to remember there's other people trying to get out of the same airport as you. So if you're not paying attention, that's just going to cost you more time on the ground. It's not a personal problem, but it's just someone is ready to go and you're not.
Yeah, and that's a big confession for me. This is the reason why I use the same call sign but with different airlines, because it's now something that if I hear it in my ears while I'm talking to chat or doing something else, I hear that 2806, I'm like, oh, that's me, and I know a lot of guys fly real world what do you call it, like call signs, and so it changes all the time. I actually personally don't know how real pilots remember the stuff. I think they have to write it down.
Or put it right on the front of them.
There you go. Exactly.
Like big letters right on the dash.
Yeah. I have screwed up. I've missed calls personally, and I feel bad. It's like, oh crap, it's control. They apologize, like, oh man, I'm sorry. I feel like a sheep, But yeah, that's But I want to hear the pet peeves from you guys. Don't feel bad for saying what you think, because this will get all of us as a community to be better on the network and take it more seriously. Have I laxed on it? Yes, I have. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. But anything you guys have to throw out there, man, to the community, it's welcome, definitely.
Brody, you got anything? I'm trying to think very carefully.
Yeah. Well, first of all, if you're flying the UK, obviously you can't go to live ATC and look at every little airport in the world or in the US. So I definitely recommend if you're flying in the UK and you're from the US, like a majority of this audience is, just spawn at Gatwick, not Heathrow. Heathrow's the worst. Don't spawn in Heathrow because those controllers are really picky. Gatwick, we're nice and relaxed. All right, you come on my Twitch channel, we chillax. Right, you come on Heathrow, they're yelling at you 24/7. There's a big difference.
I've been yelled at Heathrow.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
man.
but what you have to do is just log on as an observer. You don't even have to log in as an observer. You can just log on and not do anything. And just listen to how the frequency talks. You notice the differences and just try to accommodate for that. Because, well, if I see someone as a Delta flying from Gatwick to Amsterdam, I know he's not going to know everything. I know he's not. But I can do my best to try to merge the US and the UK a little bit. But just try to understand that I'm going to talk a different way to the US. So I sometimes I even get people like, why don't you give me my flight level in my clearance? I'm like, well, you filed with that flight level, no? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, there you go. That's your flight level. So it's definitely something where just, listen, it's a different experience. Enjoy it.
Brody, now that you've called out Heathrow, you let me know when you get that Heathrow Tower rating. You let me know when they give it to you now.
I don't even think I wanted at this point because of the frames, and everyone just disconnects on short final.
Oh my God, true. I hear you, man.
I would definitely say one of the other things that it comes up, a little bit every now and again is pilots take sometimes a lot of time on the frequency, and they don't recognize sometimes when maybe a controller is busy. So I know in New York, I see it all the time whenever working traffic I'm just absolutely getting hosed. I'm working the center, I'm working LaGuardia clearance delivery, I'm working Kennedy departure, I'm working New York approach, I'm working Philadelphia ground even, and there are just pilots everywhere looking for something, and I'm just getting hosed. And I don't know if anyone's ever heard of ATC memes, but there's a clip he put up once that directly relates to this, where you're just going. American 125 to 11.25, you got the field. It's like, yeah, okay, you clear the visual approach, 22 left, hold the speed. I'll call you back. American 127, you're clear to land only 22 right, the wind 250 at 7, traffic departs by radio. Okay, Roger, we'll do. And you're just going. And then someone comes on and they say, New York Center, hello, American 123. We have ATC information Foxtrot. Where? Oh yeah, we're at gate Bravo 3, and they're just going on talking. Like, no offense, no disrespect, I get it. People are all new to the network, and this goes back to where do you go whenever you're new to something. But when people come on and they're just talking on and on and on, using up the frequency time, and I'm like, 3 people have blown through the localizer in the time that they've called up, and there have been 2 mid-airs or something. Like, I'm just, you will hear it sometimes in our team speaks when we're controlling. God. We just say like, man, why did I need to get off right now? I mean, sorry, but it happens on the other side. That's what happens. And so and that all goes back to there's nothing wrong in being new to the network at all. Nothing wrong. No
just
disrespect.
Put in your remarks,
no hard feelings
new
here.
Pilot.
Put in your marks. Go for it. But just, that comes down to hearing the controller. Are they busy? If they are, try and work with them a little bit. If they're talking really fast and they're trying to do a lot of stuff, yeah, try and work with them and work fast. But if you really need something, yeah, step it on the frequency, say, hey, my engine's blown up. Can you? So I guess, that's another thing too, is emergencies.
Yeah,
I know emergencies, it can happen. You can do it on the network. There's one squawk code out of the entire squawk set that you cannot squawk on the network. But other than that, if you want to declare an emergency and you're with a controller, you can absolutely declare it. The only thing is on the network that the controller has the right to basically deny the emergency request. So I know it's something that I've seen people do before where there's a big event and they'll declare an emergency, say, hey, we're min fuel, we don't have a lot of fuel left, we need to land right now. And you got 45 planes in front of them that you're trying to land. As a controller on VATSIM, we have the ability to basically either accept the emergency and say, okay, yeah, we'll accommodate it, give us the fuel on board and souls remaining or whatever, we'll divert you, Philly airport's over here, go here. Or we have the ability to say, you know what, sorry, I'm really busy right now. I can't accommodate this. Or, for whatever other reason, I can just say, sorry, I don't feel comfortable working emergencies. Please go offline and continue the emergency. And so that's definitely something else that, I hear pilots calling some, I got so sidetracked by the thing. But yeah, emergencies are cool. If you want to do it and the controller's not busy, probably more likely to accept it. If it's a big event, and you're in Heathrow or something, and you're like, hey, I got an emergency, let me land now, they're probably going to tell you to go offline.
So are all controllers trained to handle emergencies?
Yes, but there's some restrictions to it. Usually, if it's an emergency where you have to put people out of the way, that just won't happen. If there's an event like Midweek Madness and someone says, "Oh, minimum fuel," we don't really care. We kind of just divert you to wherever we want. We won't say, "Okay, go off the network." We'll try to divert you to a lot of places. There's a lot of airports in the UK. It's very compact. Um, but if there's an emergency where there's an engine fire or something, we we don't call the fire, but like if I'm working Luton Tower, for example, and Essex, which is basically like Kennedy departure for LaGuardia, says, "Oh, this guy's got an engine fire." I'm like, "Okay, that's it." What do we can't call fire brigade in the sim, but we can be aware of the emergency. We can be aware of, just be a little bit extra careful with it. Obviously, we can deny emergencies. That's usually only the case if we're really busy, just don't want to deal with it. And if we just don't want to deal with it, it's nothing personal. But usually, if we don't want to deal with it, you got to respect that and either log off or just pretend like it didn't happen. Fix all systems and go back to normal.
I like that. I like that. It's good to know because honestly, the time I've been on VATSIM, I always believed that you weren't allowed to do emergencies like live. Like I thought you had to like contact VATSIM or somebody like ahead of time,
Nope.
or even just like, hey,
Nope.
I want to do an emergency. Can I do it like ahead of time before you logged on?
Oh,
No,
yeah, you
I
can
would.
definitely do it.
Yeah, I would totally say if you're on the network and you're you're not planning on an engine failing or something, but you want to simulate something, which you totally can, and you can ask the controller, hey, I know my flight plan's currently to Kennedy. I'm thinking about simulating an engine failure. Would you be able to accommodate me right now and help me divert to another airport? I think just being straightforward and honest with the controller is the fastest way. Assuming again they're not really busy and not a lot's going on. I think that's really a really easy way to find out. Just ask permission, more or less.
Yeah, absolutely. I one time was flying from Nantucket to, I think, Halifax or somewhere, and I had an engine fire on my left engine. I was like, "Hey, can I just divert to Boston?" I asked him, "Hey, I have an engine fire by text. Do you want me to disconnect, or is there any chance I can simulate this emergency?" He said, like, "Oh, it's fine. Just come straight in." And it's like, "All right, thanks." And then I talked to him on the frequency about it, and I landed. And again, for controllers, sometimes an emergency can be really fun because it's something different. He has to be
Ah,
vectored straight in. He has to do something a little bit new. But if it's something where it breaks the flow, kind of hard to squeeze in. But if it's something where they can fit it, they'll absolutely will in
I was
most
always
cases.
wondering about that 'cause I know that in real life, a lot of times you'd have to move a lot of other planes around in order to get that aircraft on the runway. Like he takes priority. But you guys, is there any type of prioritizing going on on radar out there?
Yeah,
And
definitely.
not just for emergencies, but in any kind of like, are you prioritizing like any type of traffic, like maybe stream traffic, or you like,
So
this is XP, and you're gonna put him in front, you know what I mean, or you know what I'm saying, or your friend happens to be online.
we're
You're like,
giving
hey, I'm
you
gonna put my
direct.
friend
Don't
in here.
worry, guys. You guys are both getting direct the numbers. No, technically on VATSIM, technically, and it's very specific in our VAT USA policy that we are not allowed to give priority to people, and that goes with emergencies, but just in general overall, we're not allowed to say in any way, if there are 50 planes on the ground all looking to depart because Blue and XP are flying, we can't say, hey, Blue and XP, here's the front of the line, here you guys go. You get to cut the entire line of 50. Like that's just something that to bring equality to the entire network. No one person is prioritized over another for any reason whatsoever, regardless of if you're simulating an emergency. I do have to say though, sorry, quick side note. Someone put a great comment in chat here. They said, Kennedy Tower, American 4, Information Foxtrot, Gate Bravo 4, Type 777, Blood Type, O negative, tacos for dinner last night. Clearance, please.
I love it.
Love that.
oh my God. No, look.
That is
Now
amazing. That's all I gotta
I
say. You
know.
guys in chat
We're,
are all amazing. I'm loving the conversation going on in chat. You guys are amazing. Shout out
yeah,
to chat.
man. No, we're learning so much right now. And just tons of questions I had copied and pasted. Real quick, what is observer mode and what is it good for? And what can you do and not do in observer mode?
Go for it, Brody.
Yeah, sure. So observer mode is basically you're able to see everything that's happening on the network, every little plane. You're able to listen to every frequency. You just can't talk. Your plane is not seen by other pilots. So you can be flying, quote, on VATSIM, flying your Cessna 172 around Midweek Madness or FNL, listen to the frequency, see all the planes land, plane spot, and just not be on the network. And that's really helpful if you're new. I say either do that, or you can also just log into the network and not do anything if you're new. But yeah, observer mode is basically it basically you're a ghost and you have no effect on the network, but you can see anything that's happening on the network.
I did not know you could be a ghost in observer mode. That is
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
news. I've been on the network for a long time, and I knew that observer was a thing. Never purposefully got on as it, but I did not know that you could log on and do a whole flight as a ghost. That's amazing.
Yep.
Wow.
I will say too, I know I use this whenever there are some, simulators out there that have a shared cockpit functionality. That's what everyone
Yeah.
who does shared cockpit, if you and your buddy want to fly together, if it's a Zebo 7.3 or whatever, one person signs on as a observer, the other person is on as, as the pilot, and you guys can fly together and you guys can both see all the traffic and listen to everyone.
Yeah, I've
Nice.
actually done
That's
that
good to
before.
know. That is good to know. You mentioned earlier, way earlier, that you guys use different scopes to look at to do traffic in the UK and in the US. Let me just say that I think, and I've watched maybe one or two people stream their side, the VATSIM side of it, the ATC side of it,
Yeah.
and you guys really should go watch information. Yankee on
Oh,
this.
thanks, man. I do
Sorry,
appreciate
man.
that.
No, seriously, and I'll tell you why. It gives you a better appreciation for what you guys go through trying to sequence people, and when people blow through the localizer, like I've done before, and affect other traffic on the parallel or something like that. You guys definitely need to watch a session of just ATC and see what goes on. I mean, I've seen collision warnings. I think I've seen on there before, and people are calling up
You
for.
must have been watching Microscope.
So it is good, man. So
I have a question on that, because I mean, on the pilot side, we have our issues, right? We crash planes, we land planes with no gear. People do that, and all kind of stuff happens. But like on the controller side, like how often are mistakes happening? And we're just not knowing about it. Like, how often are people about to kill each other or die, or somebody gonna land on a runway on top of another aircraft? Like, how often is that our runway incursions and things like that happening? Just out of curiosity.
Well, you want to go, Amar?
You go first.
And not just from personal experience, but I'm sure you guys have heard from your other controller friends too.
We're not perfect. If we were perfect, we would be hired. That's kind of how simple it
real world
goes.
Controller.
Yeah, man. But there's small mistakes here and there. If a controller is not at a level where they're controlling at and they're making like actual mistake, like if they're in the US, you're allowed to clear 25 people to land in a row. That's fine. But in the UK, you can't do that whatsoever. If a controller is like off his rails and doing that over and over again, they'll have a talking about it. But in general, there's only really small mistakes. Maybe I'll misidentify a taxiway at an airport that I'm decently new to controlling it, and I'll say, "Oh, sorry about that," and then just correct it instantly. Or maybe I'll just pretend like it didn't happen and just say, "Oh, new taxi instruction," something like that. But you'll almost never see a controller kind of, if they make a mistake, they usually laugh it off, something like that. But yeah,
And I know that's what I mean. I can probably say with pretty good level of confidence, and for the people watching who are my boss, please don't revoke my certifications when I say this. But I probably make mistakes every time I control. I miss someone through the localizer. Maybe I clear someone to land on the wrong runway. I misidentify a call sign. Yesterday I think I kept calling the Delta an American, and they kept saying that's not us. I'm like, oh yeah, it happens. This is a network. Pilots make
on that airplane show, the airplane disasters or whatever it is. I've seen that. That was the reason for a lot of people dying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yes. In real world, that's the phraseology and the policies. I mean, aviation is very much, it's a creation out of mistakes that have been made, and as a lot of things, but aviation especially, this real world, it's built out of what we have now is because something happened previously, good or bad, and it's in there today for a reason. On VATSIM, virtual network, we're fortunate. We don't have to work real world planes, and we're not dealing with we don't see a blip on the screen and think, wow, that's 250 people on a plane. It's not that. It's one guy, one guy or one girl, someone sitting at home. They're just flying virtually and they're trying to have a good time. And, maybe they're a real world pilot or a real world controller, or maybe, they don't have the opportunity to do that. And this is as close as they'll ever get.
Oh yeah.
And so that's what really makes me so happy is the people who don't get the opportunity to do this. I know I don't do this real world at all, but I love coming on here and pretending like I do.
Nice. Well, I mean, tons of questions today. Realize we've actually been over an hour and a
I know
half
we've
already.
gone long today, but
This is the
I don't
longest
like.
show.
I have so much more to
Okay,
ask.
I know. I got one more question, and that's it. I'm
I
not
got
gonna ask
another
any
one
more after
too.
this. My question is simple. My question is simple. Are you guys looking forward to if and when Xbox comes to VATSIM? Go.
So you want to take this?
Um,
I'll take it
hmm.
after all.
Yeah. Oh, so my good answer is yes. I'm looking for yes and no. Yes, I'm looking forward to it because of the opportunities and challenges I guess it will present. To put it nicely, is one, it's giving a lot of people access to coming into flight sim who don't maybe have a super great computer or something, but they can go buy an Xbox or something, for significantly less than maybe a really high end PC, and they can experience all of this for the first time and really get into it and really figure out what is this world like. Downside, there are definitely going to be growing pains in terms of, even when Microsoft Flight Sim showed up, there are still issues going on with that simulator and the integration in with VATSIM, and that'll just be something that'll take time to integrate in both controllers and pilots. Everyone will have to be patient with that integration. It'll just take time.
Yeah, I disagree, man. I think Xbox and VATSIM would not work for a very easy reason to say is because unless if it was something where you had to sign up with a separate app or something, a whole host of people that are on Xbox on Microsoft Flight Simulator aren't looking for a VATSIM experience. They're looking to fly around VFR, fly around the Eiffel Tower, fly around, random locations. And that's absolutely fine. I do that on Microsoft Flight Simulator. I fly VFR. I'm like, wow, that's my house. That's cool. You can't do that in X-Plane. You can't do that in P3D. But the issue is for the very, very small minority on pilots flying that want to fly on VATSIM in Xbox, the controls are because you have an Xbox controller. An Xbox controller has very limited function already. You're going to need a mouse again. You're going to need a keyboard already. It just doesn't make sense to put so much implementation, in my opinion, for something that will have such a small audience. I think if VATSIM was a lot more casual, like have you ever guys Infinite Flight, for example, they have like those casual servers.
Yep.
If it was like if VATSIM was like that, oh dear God, no. But if it was like that, it would be perfect. But it wouldn't really work, in my opinion, on that stage. And I think they've said something about it where it doesn't work anyways because of some Xbox restrictions on servers, something like that.
Nice.
I think they said that they're not going to be able to do it in the near future.
Man, we're never gonna finish this stream. I have you talking brought up 3 more. I'm gonna ask all these questions. I'm not letting you guys go. I'm sorry.
Rapid fire,
you're
rapid
not going to
fire.
sleep tonight. Rapid fire, quick answers. First one, you brought up Infinite Flight. My channel is actually built on Infinite Flight. That's where it all started for my channel, and then I transitioned into PC simming.
Really?
So I know all about Infinite Flight and developers. Point is, for those who don't know, it's a mobile flight simulator. Not gonna go in there. But so they have 3 servers. They have the casual server, they have a training server, and they have a expert server. On the casual server, you do whatever the heck you want. There's no rules. 0. Take off of the taxiway, crash on taxiway, barrel rolls. It's all you. That's Xbox. That's what you were kind of trying to say. Training server is kind of like anybody can kind of be ATC, log in and do whatever they want to, control whatever airport they want to control. Like the rules are there, but they're light. Expert server now, that's where you want to be. That is, I guess you could say, the equivalent of, that's like the mobile VATSIM, right? You got to be doing what you got to do, or you'll basically get kicked. That's like story short. But could VATSIM do something like this, where people could still enjoy a multiplayer experience, have a separate server where they could just mess around where they want, and then have a different server where, like, kind of how we are now, where it's like, all right, do what you're supposed to do, and basically, basically what VATSIM is now will be kind of like the expert server, and then you can have a separate VATSIM, so you can still log on VATSIM, you can still go to JFK and enjoy that and do a group flight with your friends, but not have to worry about talking ATC and stuff like that. Do you think that's something that'd be interesting or possible, or even do people even want that?
You know what? I think that's actually a phenomenal idea. That's something I've never considered. In your experience you brought in with Infinite Flight, I think that's an amazing idea from my perspective. If what I would do if I were you, Blue, let me give you some contact information on the VAT USA founders and the board of government. You can go talk to them and tell them, because honestly, I think that's, right now we are in a niche of a niche of a niche, right? We're in the flight sim community, which are a niche, and then you're into another niche, which is you want to simulate realism. Now you're into another, we're just down a rabbit hole in terms of where the community is, which means it's great because everyone's really tight knit and we all have very similar, mostly similar personalities and the kind of the ways we think around aviation and what we really appreciate. But it's rather limiting sometimes to other people who, like you said, they just want to hang out and fly with their friends, and they don't want to have to worry about if it's class Bravo, Delta, Charlie, whatever, wherever we're going.
X-Plane doesn't have a native, right? They don't have a native multiplayer. I don't think P3. I don't know what P3D does. I'm not sure, but I know for sure X-Plane does not have native multiplayer. Microsoft does.
P3D used to, because they came from FSX, and they used to. I don't know if they do it now. I know MSFS does. You're absolutely right, but no, I think that's a phenomenal idea.
What do you think, Yankee?
I disagree again.
I love it.
Come on, man.
And I'll explain why. It's mainly to do with an issue of traffic. Especially if it was 3 servers. 2, you could make an argument. Well, I mean, even that 2. VATSIM already is very, very small in comparison to real life. And the reason for that is because the operational limit is smaller than it is. When I first started flying online, I looked at IVAO and I looked at VATSIM. I was like, oh, VATSIM's more popular. I'll do that. Because the reason why we all fly online is to see other people all in one network. That's why we're all one community. And we can talk about POSCON, but that's for a different time. But,
I got a message about that.
Did you? Oh, no.
But
probably
my general opinion is that if we were to split that server into 2, we would lose a lot of people that are coming to VATSIM to learn more, because they'll just stay on the casual server and they'll never progress, and they'll leave at some point. If people are flying on the VATSIM network and they're starting off as a casual and they are flying on a hard-tuned network already, right from the get-go, they're going to be learning. And that's the whole point of VATSIM, to learn. I know it's like Aviate, Communicate, something else I forget. But we want to teach people more. And if we have a casual server, it brings more traffic into the network, but it also brings less teaching, and it also splits up the network. If I fly on the expert server of VATSIM and I see there's like 3 other guys and then everyone's just chilling the casual server, I'm like, well, that's cool. I'm going to go over the casual server, but then I'm going to see people just flying into me. And it's something where Microsoft Flight Simulator was very smart to have that online feature, because that is where that should be, in my opinion. I mean, I don't see many people in P3D flying VFR. I see some people in X-Plane fly VFR, and I see a lot of people in X-Plane chilling, flying VFR around London. But Microsoft Flight Simulator is a knock in the park if you want to chill out with your friends.
Have a VFR group flight.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. I'm flying all my friends. We just chill in like the first server we decide, and we just instantly just knock it out. We fly into each other. We fly to, we like we just like fly 20,000 feet there, come right down. It's an absolute blast. And I recommend anybody that's looking to just casually fly with other people, get Microsoft Flight Simulator, especially if you're doing VFR, because dude, that scenery is amazing.
Yeah,
amazing. It's incredible. Like, I have to like download like 2 terabytes of ortho and X-Plane, and there's clouds everywhere, and it looks like the clouds are like snowy hills in the middle of like at like the outback in Australia. Like, come on, man. But it's absolutely perfect for that. But I think because of how perfect it is already, why limit that and make VATSIM a VATSIM server where it's already built in Microsoft?
Yeah, Andy in my chat said, if you want serious experience, VATSIM. If you want to land under the Eiffel Tower, then you got Xbox Live.
Yeah, I agree. I like that. I like that. I'll go ahead and move on again. I don't want to take up too much time. I got so many questions. The next one is on the MilSim tip. So for military simulation, how do you guys feel about that? Like, what's kind of like the regulations that VATSIM have for, like, if I want to fly a military jet anywhere, or if I want to fly a military jet like in an actual military area, like what's and same with helicopters, stuff like that. What is I guess the regulation for that on VATSIM?
Yeah, I would be very surprised if we had similar procedures, but in the UK, this isn't how real life is, because there's nothing you can do about that. But what we do is, if you are flying any plane on VATSIM, you're technically not required to be a military operation. You can be flying an F-16, but still do commercial stuff in theory. But that almost never happens, and they're like, "Oh, I wanna have a dogfight with somebody," and that is technically allowed. But you have to be a member of a VATSIM. I think it's a VATSIM military organization. I think in VAT UK we have a couple
They have
of them.
VAs.
Yeah, VAs. That's it. VAs. If you join a
So
VA,
basically an official
yes, an official part of that, or
VA or something like that.
Yeah, I think there are multiple organizations within VATSIM. I don't think they're directly operated by VATSIM. I think they're operated by third-party people that just VATSIM are affiliated with.
Do you know
if you are a part of that VA and they have an event like a dogfight, or if they have some type of squadron, something XYZ, then that's absolutely okay.
I can see Blue's Gary in his head turning.
Yeah, Blue's already he's looking up VA VATSIM on his computer.
There you go. There you go. See it.
But
yeah.
There was a time, I'm not gonna lie, there was a time a while back where I was legit very hard looking for a military VA to join on X-Planes. This is before Microsoft came out. But I couldn't find one. I couldn't find an active one. I found a few that were had an old website, but I couldn't find an active. So anybody in the chat knows about any military?
It's VSOA, Virtual Special Operation Agency. Dot Wallop just said it. VSOA.
Gotcha.
So just Google VSOA.
I like doing stuff like that. I mean, I like flying airliners and stuff like that too. But I like to kind of go out of the box and do some different stuff because there's a lot of planes out there do a lot of stuff, and I want to do all of it.
But again, there is a side note to that. If you are flying a Phantom 16, but you are just flying a regular route like a normal Airbus A320, you do not have to. Yeah, if you do not have to be a member of a VA or a VSOA to fly that plane. But if you want to do any type of military-like procedure, you do.
Gotcha.
The only exception I can think about in the UK, there's a airport called Gibraltar, which is actually very special because VAT UK actually operates that, but it is really militaristic because of how close it is to Spanish airspace. So there's a couple of different procedures. That's not something where you have to be a VSOA, something like that. That's not required.
Yeah, I know in the U.S., we see it all the time in New York, the Air Force Ones and the Air Force Twos, they fly up and down the East Coast all the time.
And I was one of them.
And we work them because they're not trying to do anything, very, very heavy military oriented. They're just trying to do a flight, they're departing, Potomac airspace, the Washington, D.C. area, and they're trying to go up to Cologne or something like that. They're not doing anything very specific to a military operation like a refueling or a dogfight or something like that. And so, and I think someone on the chat, Bat USA, was saying that some military activities are restricted, like we're saying to the VSOs. But if you're just flying up and down, not trying to cause any problems, or even if you're flying an SR-71, I know I tried doing that once where, you clear 60,000 feet, you're technically above ATC.
You're
like the ATC
now.
is,
Echo, right?
60,000 feet and above. You don't have to talk to ATC anyway. So if you can get up there, go for it. Good luck.
Also, something in the chat that I was very surprised that someone asked was, does VAT UK operate in the Falklands? It's kind of off topic, which it kind of is because it's kind of militarist. Argentina, kind of islands off there. We do not operate that. That's with South America. But yeah, just join a VSOA if you want to have some fun, man.
Yeah, the reason I asked is because like say somebody wants to join on VATSIM, and they want to do a realistic VATSIM flight, military flight, and do like the mock loop, or they want to fly through Star Wars Canyon, stuff like that. Like that's the kind of stuff that I would look into. There's a lot of ones even on the East Coast as well of the U.S. where you can fly and it's like low, you know what I'm saying? Like there's actual procedures for them as well that are charted. So like, do you guys allow that? That's what I was asking without being a VSO.
Yeah, I know in New York, and same with the UK, because I know I've seen your guys' airspace a couple of times, that we have what are called in the US, they're called warning areas, which in the real world they can go either hot or cold, which are basically just blocks of airspace that predominantly hang just off the coast somewhere near a US Air Force base. And those blocks, real world, are dedicated to allowing F-16, whatever military aircraft to come in, and it's not airspace that a controller comes in and says, okay, yeah, you're clear. You go in, you do your stuff, your controller just works traffic around you. Like, if you guys have ever flown around, Southwest United States, you see it a lot. And a lot of the routes, you'll notice that it's Vegas. Maybe not a direct route. Yeah, it's not a direct route from Dallas to LA or Dallas to Vegas, because they're routing you around those warning areas in the real world that would be active, and commercial aircraft don't go through there. They're not allowed to go through there. And so in the couple of times I've ever seen stuff like that, people can go and do what they want, but I'm not touching them. That's not something that we do. That's not anything that, unless other people do it, that this general controllers on the network get trained for.
And they're usually outside of your airspace too, right? Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Sorry, we went on that such a bit longer.
No, all good.
Final one.
I guess.
We
sorry,
we gotta let you guys go.
Sorry, let me just add on to this really fast. So there is a section in here that says the activities that are permitted, VSOs or organizations are permitted to engage in the following activities. This is for VSOs only. Conducting joint training exercises with other approved organizations, war games, air-to-air refueling, carrier operations, flying low-level military training routes. So I know you were talking about some of that kind of stuff. Flying escort missions, and executing air combat maneuvers, so intercepting other aircraft. So those are stuff that only VSO approved people are allowed to do. Sorry, but go ahead.
Basically everything.
Good. Good to know.
Okay. No, thank you. That's really good to know. I think good for everybody to know. Anybody. I mean, there's not as many people. It's like you said, a niche within a niche. That's one of the niches within our niche. Yep. So hopefully that helps somebody out in the chat. But last one, and this is my final. I'm sorry, XP.
No, go ahead, man. It's good.
We don't get to talk to controllers every day, man. Like we fly on the network.
Well, actually, we do talk to controllers.
You guys talk to us every day.
I mean, okay.
Yeah,
we don't get to talk outside the phraseology every day.
True.
So okay, I'm just not gonna ask the other one. So funniest thing that you had, funniest story from VATSIM for you guys' experience.
Good one.
Brody, you got one?
I've got to think about it. I mean, it's so strange because of I once had a guy from the United States who had no idea what he was doing, but he knew about it and he was laughing it off. And he asked me for the longest possible taxiway, like the longest possible taxi he could ever have into Gatwick, because he wanted to learn every single taxiway and where it was when he was flying out.
I want to meet this person. I
wanted to do that. It was at the randomest night. Excuse my language. It was just up and down every little taxiway that we have in Gatwick, and we have so many that are all connecting, and I had to route them around. It was hectic, but it was hilarious. And it was like one other BA pilot, and he was kind of mad about it because he wanted to go, but I got him out. So that was a fun time.
I can say that as not the controller who this applies to, and I won't say where I saw this and heard this happen. I was flying through an airspace once. And the controller, maybe it was a little late at night, and maybe they had a little too much of a drink that makes you slightly an ability where you're not talking in maybe a proper way and enunciating your words correctly. And I do remember that the controller was not entirely busy, but they spent a lot of time on frequency, and they actually went down an entire list telling jokes to every single pilot on the frequency, up and down, like the 300 miles of airspace that they own. And I thought, you know what? That's not actually that bad of an idea, because everyone's laughing, having a good time, and, you're just kind of chilling, hanging out, doing your thing. I think it was a Saturday night, but yeah, I know that was definitely a lot of fun. I won't say who it was and where it was because I'll probably get in trouble, but that's okay.
I'm not a controller, but I've got one. I remember taking off from JFK, doing JFK in Miami, and I took out of JFK, and it was like the United 2806 direct Miami. I'm like, excuse me? It was direct Miami. I literally had a direct to the airport. It was like 1,500 miles away. I was like, holy crap, shortcut night. And I did it. And he signed off, but
that is something
he
that
signed off right after.
So
he's like, screw your flight plan, you go to Miami.
Is that possible? Is that real?
Yeah, so that's the question. From a real world standpoint, real world controllers will come in and tell you there is no official limit in the US. I won't speak for everyone else. In the US, there is no official limit on where you can clear someone direct. I've talked to real world New York Center controllers who someone's flying out of JFK and it's the middle of the night, real world, and it's a FedEx or something, and they will clear the FedEx pilot direct the final approach fix into 25 right at LAX, all the way across the country, real world.
And clear for the ILS too?
No, maybe not them.
Wow. Jesus, man.
But so the stance that we take from a U.S. standpoint is we don't clear direct too often, but when we do, we're doing it because A, there's not a lot of traffic, or B, if you're flying, a 787 and you're up at flight level 450 and you're just way out of the way and you're not talking to anyone, I give shortcuts all of the time. And pilots, they respond the exact same way. They say, "Oh, are you sure that VOR, that fix is 500 miles away?" I said, no, yeah, you're cleared direct. And it cuts 15, it doesn't cut a crap ton of time off, but it gives them a nice little 15-minute shortcut. And they're always pleasantly surprised, as I'm sure you were, XP.
Absolutely. I set up this whole flight plan with like 20 different ways. Half an hour. Oh, man. Look, I mean,
I want to say, though, I really appreciate all the controllers who might be listening or watching this or the replay.
Yes.
Thank you for making our cruises fun. Like that guy you mentioned who was telling jokes, like that's amazing. And I've heard many times on the VATSIM network all over the world, especially when they're not busy, you'll hear controllers, being, pretty chill and then just having a good time, just like, telling jokes. And then you have the pilots coming back, they don't get too busy on the network, but still they really make the experience more enjoyable. We remember that this is not real life and we can actually have fun with it. We can actually joke with each other as long as it's within the bounds, as long as it's like the controller has the big picture of it. He knows who's busy, he knows if it's time for you to send. And it's a game. You have to remember it is a game. Obviously people on here are a bit more serious about it, and some people might actually get annoyed by it. But for me, I'm not saying I prefer it. I like to be as realistic as possible. At the same time, I do appreciate it when a controller is very friendly, very just you can tell when the vibe is right, and I love it. It's sometimes you fly into an airport and busy or not, and that person, I don't know why, some controllers are just in a bad mood for some reason, and you can just tell. And so it's just a big difference to fly into an airport that just feels welcoming.
And I'm so glad you said that, Blue. And one thing just to add to there as well, for any of the pilot community out here, that if you do run across a controller and have an experience with someone who they absolutely killed it, or you had a great time, or even if maybe you didn't have a greatest of a time or something went wrong, just about in the U.S., and I'm, maybe for other places as well. In the U.S., I know we have every single one of our RTech websites for individual New York, Kansas City, Boston, wherever. We have on our websites the ability for pilots to leave feedback for our controllers. So if someone feels like they had a really great night, that guy on, Boston departure, he just killed it. He was awesome. I had a great time. If you have a minute or two, just Google literally VATSIM Boston and you'll find the page and you'll see a link there that says feedback. Go ahead and give some feedback and let them know, because that gives us as controllers and then also as RTechs and divisions really good exposure into how are our controllers doing? Are we doing good or not? And we love hearing feedback from pilots. So yeah, if you have an opportunity to, definitely, and even look in their controller information. Most people put it in there. I don't know about you guys in VAT UK though.
Yeah, we have the exact same thing. If you go to the VAT UK website, you will find, I think it's on the header, second thing or third thing, submit feedback. And whether it's positive or negative, we encourage people to do it because it helps if someone's maybe doing some really bad proceduring or really good proceduring. It helps us know that because when I'm controlling when it's like 5 a.m. in the UK, I mean
So right now.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, we do highly encourage people to leave feedback, and I wouldn't be surprised if every single region on VATSIM has some type of submit feedback. Otherwise, if control is being it's being really annoying for no reason, and not annoying because he's giving you a hold, like we're talking about like actually being annoying, then you can call supervisor .sup, see what's going on, and resolve it from there. But again, I've never had that experience where I've had to call a supervisor on a controller. I doubt almost all people on VATSIM haven't. But that is an option for you. If you feel that you're in the right with something and the controller is purposely being annoying about something, you can call supervisor. But first ask them about it, because maybe it's an actual reason.
Yeah, so make sure you guys tip your controllers.
There you go.
That would be.
They might get a raise.
It would become Pilot Edge minus the automatic pay. It would just be.
There you go. Exactly.
Can we get that virtually pay?
Exactly.
Amazing.
Wow.
Amazing.
Umar, Brody, both of you guys have enlightened us today, man, and
Thank you
absolutely
so much,
appreciate
guys.
you guys coming on. And I have a sneaky feeling that we're going to hear a lot more from VATSIM between me and Blue and VATSIM itself. And I appreciate all you guys taking the time to share with us, to explain to us, to enlighten us, to let us know what goes on behind the scenes, what's expected of us, which is important, and so forth and so on. So thank you so much, guys, for coming on. And I will be, by the way, I'm going to be doing Gatwick into that Oktoberfest in Munich Saturday.
Wait, XP, let me know about that. I'll get a booking in. I'll get a
All
booking
right,
in.
no problem. I'll let you know. I'll hit you up on that. Blue, what you got coming up, man?
I ain't got nothing. I'm just kidding. Tomorrow I'll be on DCS actually, which is not X-Plane or Microsoft related. Makes you. I wish I had a VATSIM flight tomorrow because of this conversation, but I don't. We'll be on DCS. We'll be back on typical flight sims next week. But I do want to say, how would someone get in contact with a controller? Like if they really like the guy, or say it's your home, the same guy's always controlling the same voice at that home airport, and you want to be like, hey, I want to hit him up and just like know him. Is that like a thing that you could do, or is that possible, or is that weird?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I know, I love getting messages from pilots when, this happens all the time. If it's really busy or something and the pilot just sends me a message and says, hey, I know you're really busy. I appreciate all you're doing. Like, that means so much to us. And an easy way to do it is you can, through all the pilot clients, there's actually an ability to private message, not only pilots, but you can private message controllers as well. You've probably gotten plenty of contact me's from definitely me, but plenty all the other controllers, whenever they come in, like that's the same function, that contact me feature. Whenever you get a little pop-up, you can definitely do it. So if you, I know the easiest thing to do on like the X Pilot or the V Pilot is just right click on the controller name and click open message. That's the easiest way to go about it. Send them a private DM that only they will see.
Nice.
Gotcha. Circle open message. What you got going on, XP?
That's it. That's it, man. I'm done, man. This conversation has just been enlightening for all of us, and
Officially,
I'm glad we're able to have it on the Blue-XPerience.
Yes, officially
So
the longest
Thank
episode
you, guys.
of the Blue-XPerience, by the way.
Yes, 2 hours.
Yeah,
worth it,
thanks for having me on, man.
Absolutely.
Hey guys, and I know I just want to say this from myself as well, that thank you so much for everything. I know Blue and XP, you guys are doing. You guys are killing it out there, man. You guys are both killing it. Keep doing what you guys are doing. Pilots, I know you guys are out here listening. You guys are awesome. We love you, even if sometimes we're mad at you. We love you. We still love you.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Good. Wow. All right, I guess get 2 streamers and 2 ATC guys together and think we're not going to talk for 2 hours. Yeah, okay.
We could have waited for another 2. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, we can check out. By the way, we can check you guys. We can check out
Information Yankee.
Information Yankee live on Twitch. It's a rub, man. Information Yankee live on Twitch. And Umar, you're just controlling it on stream or anything, do you?
No, I don't do any of that stuff, but
Good.
I'm over at the New York ARTCC, and anytime you see me on, feel free to say hi. We love it. I know we always have events coming up out in New York, and I don't know if you guys are on VAT USA, you look at VATtastic, wherever you go look for events, we're probably putting it up, and we do that stuff all the time. And we love you guys coming up.
So any big events coming up that you guys want to promote for either region?
Yeah, I'll take a look.
While he's looking, I can say really fast that we technically don't have any crazy big events coming up. We do have a minor event coming up actually next week in New York. We're doing a little what's called Class Delta Clash. It'll be next Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, 2300 Zulu, where it'll be a nice little, crossfire between some smaller fields. And if you're definitely newer to the network, this would be an event for you I would recommend to come and show up for. Just because it's a little bit more low-key, there's not as much traffic going on, and it gives you the opportunity to really talk to us and get more than just an approach controller or center controller. But other than that, go check out the VAT USA website. Just Google VAT USA, and you'll see all the events for all the VAT US, all the US events going on.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah, in the UK, same thing. If you go to our website, you'll see home events on our forums, and you'll be able to see pretty much any event coming for the next month or so. We do have a Dublin Stansted City Fair, so we're teaming up with the Ireland division and getting a quick crossfire between Dublin and Stansted if you want to do some Ryanair ops. And then other than that, just Midweek Madnesses week in, week out. They're always a blast. They always get really busy, but we try to pride ourselves in getting as many people as possible. So even though there might be a bit small airports, Manchester's coming up. Gatwick is coming up this week, which will be a blast. And then after that, Manchester and Edinburgh for the next 2 weeks.
Someone said cross the pond in chat. Please no, it's too soon. Not too far away.
Voting's open for that, by the way, guys.
I don't want to talk about it.
I have never done one.
I haven't either. I've been wanting to do one.
You've got to
I've
do
never
it.
done
You
that.
guys got to do it.
I mean, I've done it.
It's a
but not on the
requirement
network.
by this point. I mean,
I know.
the thing is, it's like we should have talked about that as well, about how they're restricting people now.
What?
Really?
Yeah,
What do you
so
mean?
it used to be Cross the Pond was a lot more casual with people that didn't get bookings, but because of a lot of new people in the network, bookings have gone down, and it's kind of been a place where they've been. It's reasonable of why, but then they've also said, you know what, if you're flying, not booked on the event, but you're flying within airports that are booked on the event, you'll experience extreme ground holds. It used to be somewhere where we'll fit you in somewhere, it's fine, but now it's
No.
yeah. And
I think historically there are like 2,500 pilots flying across the Atlantic every twice a year when it's insane. It's awesome. It's a crazy event.
Blast, yeah.
But I will say, as of the last couple of Cross the Ponds, they've kind of come to the determination from a controller standpoint. There are just too many planes. It's impossible to fit everyone in. So what's ended up happening is what Brody means by restricting the bookings is they have, I think, 900 or 1,000 bookings or some huge number, but it's going to fill up at some point, and there's still going to be another 1,000 people that are going to want to fly. And so they're really
still going to log on.
Right. Yeah, people are still going to log on. And so now the question becomes, how do we manage that? And that's something that VATSIM continues every single Cross the Pond to take a look at. And that's too many steps above my pay grade that all I know, they tell me what to do. I get on. I'm on New York radio. Leave me. I'll do my thing.
Wow.
Wow, man.
Oceanic clearance scares me. So
no.
They have websites for that now, man.
I have
where you
never
literally
done
just put in your
oceanic
call sign
clearance.
and gives you the clearance. Yeah.
Fly through New York. We don't do that stuff.
There you go. Nice. This is great, guys. This is great, man. Wow, absolutely fantastic. We didn't know where the time went. Thanks for coming on the Blu-XPerience. This is where we hope to get these kind of discussions going on in the flight sim community about everything and all things. And you guys being an integral part of our flying. We're always on VATSIM. We love VATSIM, and you guys sharing this with us, it's good. And there's gonna be future stuff with you guys. I could see it. So appreciate it. Absolutely, Umar and Brody.
Yeah. Absolutely,
man. Definitely, man. Blue, it's all yours, man.
We'll see you on the network, guys. Thank you so much for watching the Blu-XPerience. It's been amazing having the two guys here on from VATSIM. I don't want it to end. I don't know how you guys feel, but I don't want it to end. But it has to end at some point, so it's gonna be right now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, remember you have three choices: give up, give in, and give all you got. Peace, love, and God bless you. From my bowl of mac and cheese, we are out of here. Peace out.
Yeah.